This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
No, cut that. Keep that. Someday it's going to be worth something.
Russ Wakeland.
You put me in an ATST with frickin' Wookiees attacking me and whatnot?
Now you're talking.
And Raef, Hollywood Granger.
I still don't know what S-foils on an X-Wing are.
With contributions from Total Fangirl
Vampires do not sparkle.
and our loyal listeners.
Are you crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming. Come to the speed of a 2005 Kia Amante with a full tank of gas and a trunk full of Weird War II goodness stuck in rush hour traffic.
What?
Today's edition is brought to you by Joshin Kyo, Joe Kalewa. I'm going to mess. This is just a massacre. Joel, that one I can do. John Armstrong, I'm with you. John Gibson. Okay, we're ending strong.
Push through.
I'm Geekly McNerdigan, your host. Today our panelists are Russ Elsewhere Wakeland.
What?
And third chair emeritus and wingman among wingmen, Raef. Glad to be here, Granger. Let's begin. Issue number 1. One of the most difficult types of events to plan are live events, where just about anything can happen, including a variable turnout, questionable venue, distractions, lack of supplies, and so much more. In fact, when the rubber hits the road, holding a live event is probably the most stressful task a micro-celebrity can be called upon to perform. Question. How many people attended the first Q&A budding author Craig Gallant ever held in the main conference hall at HonorCon 1 in 2013?
Ooh.
Rowdy Crowd Russ.
35.
Rampant Rush Raef.
All right, I'm going to get these right. 8, 12.
Technically, 2. In a massive room with seating for 500, fully supplied with a complete audiovisual suite and a main stage, there were 2 people in the audience.
Ouch.
Wow.
And they weren't there for me.
No.
They were there complaining about how crowded the rest of the con was. Eventually,
Oh,
they
snap.
left.
Ow.
So the real answer is actually 0, which makes both of you wrong. But me, so very sad.
Well, you have to start
Issue
somewhere.
number 2. During the first part of World War II, the majority of fighter planes used by the Germans came from a single company. This company had begun during the First World War and changed hands several times, even becoming dissolved at one point before being reformed in the ramp-up to World War II. The chief designer who would eventually rise to control the company fought a constant battle with Erhard Milch, the head of Deutsche Lufthansa, over the death of Milch's best friend during a test flight and the aircraft designer's apparent lack of concern over the accident. Question. What was the name of the designer who lent his name to the company? Gunther Rahl Russ.
Lufthansa.
Eric Rudolph or Raef.
Toss up between Messerschmitt and Volkswagen. Volkswagen.
Wrong! So close, Raef! So close! Messerschmitt! So close.
Oh,
And yet, so very far. Issue number 3. It is very difficult at this juncture in history to adequately describe the concept of computer games, given the prevalence of platforms, the cross-pollination of systems, and the diffusion of the market from PCs to tablets and consoles to other portable and dedicated devices. Those of us of a certain age might often use the term computer game to refer to any or all of these, and thus confuse the issue with younger or more avid fans of the current meta. Question. In what year was OXO, an adaptation of tic-tac-toe for the EDSAC, and thus often considered to be the first computer game, introduced? Riven Russ.
1978.
Rust Raef.
I disagree with all those premises. 1969.
So wrong. The both of you, not even in the right decade. 1952.
Ooh, ouch.
Wow.
Tack. You're done. Issue number 4. Although most of us don't realize that street piano really is a thing. Whether the aspiring pianist plays on a portable keyboard or a flexible rollout interface, whether with a small Bluetooth speaker or a full portable audio setup, folks will recreate the classy, seemingly isolating beauty of a piano solo almost anywhere. Question. On a scale of 1 through 10, with 1 being something very, very low, and 10 being something significantly less low, how likely is it that an early morning crowd of game conventioneers, 2 days into the con, will be receptive to an adequately played piano solo using a grand piano that had just been pushed into a corner during the event? Martin Roscoe Russ.
6.3.
Nicholas Roth Raef.
I know where that's going. 2.
Well, to be honest, the variables are far too many and too impactful to rate this phenomenon with any reliability. What time is early? What exactly does adequately played mean? Was there an open bar the night before? Is it around 10 o'clock in the morning after a furious night of drinking gaming with a small independent performance art troupe setting up a table just across the hall? Because that'd be less than 0. That's it for now. Thanks for listening and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by
Battle Foam, protecting your army so you don't have to.
And the War Store, bringing the war to your door since 1999, and that is for a decade or more.
Hello!
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 Hey, and welcome to episode 207
That's a big number.
of the D6 Generation. I'm Russ Wakeland.
I'm Craig.
And I'm Raef Hollywood Granger. I've never left since the predictions episode. I've been sitting here the whole time.
It's excellent. Keeping the third chair warm. Mr. Granger's back in the house. Thank you so much, Rafe, for joining us again. Always a pleasure. It's like old times when Rafe's back on the show, isn't it, Craig?
Yes, it is. It's like a flashback to the future.
It's like I'm teleported back to like 2013, the heady days of 2013.
The heady days.
Right. Right. So today's episode with Rafe here in the third chair. And Rafe also, first of all, we're going to talk about video games because we haven't spoken about them in, it seems like in a while. I did talk a little bit about it with our friend JJ, but not as deep as and as into it as Rafe and I get. So we're going to chat about that a bit. But then also, Rafe was kind enough to pinch hit for me at Captain Con, and we want to share all the adventures because Craig had quite the adventure down there in Captain Con. Would you say that's fair, Craig? An adventure? Adventure?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
sure.
For a variety of reasons, it was adventurous.
Way to sell it. Good. Okay, good. So we'll be talking about that later as well. Okay. So before we get to all that, however, we did happen to bump into no one. Craig and I were there hanging out at the that Dunkin' Donuts, right?
And
chatting.
The whole metaphysical Dunkin' Donuts was empty. We had it all to ourselves. It might have been the snow.
It could be. When Rafe comes on, though, we start to think about the past. We get nostalgic. And sometimes we like to talk
all about nostalgia.
And we start thinking about where are some of those games we reviewed so many years ago? Where are they now? We still playing them? We still like them? Are they, if they were released today, would we go snap them up and buy them? So if you want to hear that, you should listen to that. And if you'd like to listen to the Lost Chapters, Craig, what should you do?
You should go to the d6generation.com and you should look on the left or right-hand margin where you will see the Patreon link, and you should click on it, and it will go to our Patreon page, at which point you should choose to support us because what we do is phenomenal. It's better than Cats. You will laugh, you will cry, you will want to see it again and again. And then when you pledge to support the show with $50 or more, we will give you a beautiful umbrella worth at least $5.
Right.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Wrong script. Script.
That's
if you support the
you
show
have a nice
for at least,
quiet voice, though.
Yeah, well
at
done.
least $2. I'm going. You know what I'm. Anyway, $2 per episode supporting the show will get you access to the entire catalog of the Lost Chapters. Every one we've ever made. You can listen to hours upon hours upon hours of extra material for just that low price.
Excellent.
Of $50. Oh, wait. Nope. Sorry. Wrong
$2 an episode.
$2 an episode.
That's right. So head on over to Patreon, check it out.
And you can see the only video Russ and I have ever made together.
And you'll understand why.
And you'll understand why we're still a podcast.
The
world is changing to video casting.
And we are not going there. No.
And we are not.
We are staunchly in audio.
In our comfort zone. We are,
you know what, Craig?
Consigned to our wheelhouse. What?
Yeah.
We are the NPR of the radio video age, podcasting is the NPR.
It's funny you should ask. Say that, Rafe. That's a great comment, except that we don't get any government funds whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, it'll work out once podcasting starts to fade. Then we'll be government funded to keep us alive.
Then the government
will be an art form. We'll be a dying art form, so it'll work out.
Exactly. There we go.
So speaking of dying art forms, what's the time now for, Craig?
It's time for me to find out. Achievement, Archie, Ichi, what is the vowel? Achievements in gaming.
Oh, boy.
It is indeed. And, of course, as always, Achievements in Gaming brought to us by our friends at Patreon, keeping the lights on here, keeping us doing stuff, helping us do things like stay overnight at conventions in a hotel and not on someone's floor. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
We do appreciate that
so much. So first, what we've been playing lately, Mr. Granger. What have you been playing lately, sir?
Oh, right. Well, I got to go to Captain Con this year, which you guys will talk about later. And I finally got to play War Machine again. Yay!
Excellent.
You did.
Now, did you play in any events there, Rafe, or just play random games?
I did. I played in the what they call the Old Man Tourney.
Nice.
The Senior Tour. I call it the Senior Pro Tour to make it sound like golf. Boy, I got to tell you, Russ, I'm now hankering to play some War Machine.
I'm in, dude.
Craig even brought us models, but we weren't able to get around. Just time escaped us.
Had all the models, though.
Yeah. It's so fun. It was so fun to blow the dust off. The Senior Tour, run by those guys down there, Captain Con. It was so much fun because everybody's in the same boat.
Right.
I hadn't played the new War Machine. I think maybe only once, and when I said that to my opponent, they were like, "Oh yeah, no, me too. I've only played like a couple times," and people had different armies that they never played before. Your opponent walks up and he's like, "Hey, just to let you know, I have no idea if this list even works. I just wanted to field these painted models."
Nice.
So it's like that kind of setting.
That's my speed. I can handle that. I like it.
Yeah, it was perfect. The press gangers did a great job too. Like they would make fun of us. They would go, "All right, all you old timers, turn your hearing aids up. We're not going to tell you what the mission's like." And Russ, when I walked to sign in, they're like, "Okay, now we're going to give you a piece of paper. And you use a pen. Don't try to chisel into a rock. You got to use a pen to fill it out." And they're like, so come back at 3 to roll dice. Now, that's when the sundial points to the north. And I'm like, yeah.
See, I'd have been fine with my grease pencils then. I should actually bring actual grease pencils for the cards.
You should.
That would be
you
awesome.
should.
I got to play in that because it sounds like it's just my kind of game. And it never works out, but I want to do that.
Anybody out there within the sound of my voice that gets a chance, you have to be over 40, and they're not fooling. Like, you have to prove that you're over 40. Another neat thing they did this year, and Craig got to see the list, is one of the gentlemen there had created, I think the press gangers did too. They created this achievement list. There were these achievements. For example, if you rolled 3 ones within a game, you yelled out, "Ow, my hip," and you got the "Ow, my hip" achievement.
Nice.
I liked the "Get Off My Lawn" achievement. If you
That was the best one.
you knocked somebody's, what did you have to do? Knock someone off an objective?
Get off my lawn, you kid! I love it. That's awesome. I like the theming too. That's fantastic. See,
yeah,
I would be right now. How'd you do? Did you win more than you lost? Did you break even?
I did. I won 2 games out of 3, and my third game was going in a really good direction until an odd thing occurred, which we'll get to. But I felt kind of, the 2 games I won was sort of like taking candy from a baby, and
a very old baby, right?
Yeah, because remember when I used to practice and play for a hardcore?
Yeah, right.
So I've known what it's like to play with a death clock. So my door list was designed to be death clock playable,
right.
Meaning I don't have a bunch of Iron Fang pikemen that are complicated to move all around and line up and roll individual rolls. So my opponents had the equivalent of, like, I played a circle army and the guy had like 8 druids.
Oh,
so he's casting different things. He's casting lightning, casting smoke. I mean, it took him like 3 minutes just to pick up all his models and put smoke underneath them.
Oh, right.
So I felt sort of bad because both of my opponents death clocked out. And it was fast, and I almost wished they didn't. I was having such a blast. I wished we could have kept playing. So I don't really know. Like, we death clocked so early. My third game, which because I was in the winners bracket, was against another opponent, another Khador player, and his was death clock worthy. So we were both moving at speed. And then in the last turn of the game, I thought I had the right amount of objective points. I thought if your unit was in 4 inches of a flag, you got a control point. I didn't realize you had to touch it.
Oops.
We both thought that. So we thought it was tied. And so what's funny is the press ganger comes up and he's like, "Hey, so if you like move your model here and you get Rafe off the objective and then you move your behemoth, you'll win the game." And I'm like, "Hey,
yeah, that's not what."
Yeah, so I was like, "Hey, come on!" But then come to find out, I didn't even have the 3 objective points because I wasn't on the flag.
Oh, okay, right.
But then again, the way us old Grampies play, we would have been like, "Oh, that doesn't count." Like, people forgot feeds, people forgot to move, people forgot to allocate focus, and that's one of the fun things.
Again, my kind of speed, right?
Oh yeah,
I'm in.
It looked like very, very, very nice, fun, laid back stuff.
Oh, I'm in. Man, I want to play that next time.
And Craig noticed all fully painted.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
and that's not a thing, right?
Nope,
That's
it's not a requirement.
It's just the group of people, that would be drawn to that kind of event are the kind of people who paint their models.
That's awesome. Well,
And that was not a thing because you could look elsewhere and again, swaths of unpainted armies. Not everybody. I would say less than 50% were unpainted or had a big chunk of unpainted, but there's still a lot more than you'd like to see in a
venue like that.
in a big in a big tournament scenario.
But not at the senior tour.
No. Everybody was painted. That's that's
well, nice
the point.
job,
Even though
Raef.
not a requirement.
Sounds like you turned it. Now, were there prizes for best painted and stuff? Did you show place?
Nope. It was person who won got a prize. I think person who came in second got a prize, and then person who had the most achievements, which I thought was cool. Made the achievements matter more than just fluff.
Yep. Awesome.
But yeah, it totally scratched the itch. I can't wait to play another game. I can't remember, Russ. I can't remember if those War Machine games count towards my predictions or not, but that's just for fun to think about.
Oh, I think they would. Yeah, that's 3.
I can't remember.
Well,
I couldn't
forget what
remember
you
if they
said.
had
We'll
to
look
be
it
you
up,
and
yes.
Craig. That's what.
Did you record them in some kind of battle tracking system? You should do that.
Yep, it's called Craig Gallant Saw Me.
Okay, fair enough.
I did see him.
There was a witness.
Let's see. Let's do Dragon and Flagon next. I'll let Craig talk about the most of it. There's no hate on the show.
No, there's not. Disappointment,
There's not.
though. You can be disappointed if you want.
No, I wouldn't even say disappointed because the game's great. It's just not for me.
Why didn't you like Dragon and Flagon?
I don't like the feeling of like, oh, this will be really. This is me. Oh, this will be really fun. I'm going to move 2 steps and then I'm going to slash Craig. Oh, wait a minute. Not only is Craig not there, but I'm not there.
Oh, right.
I got knocked down or the table went on my head, and it's okay to me if it happens once or twice, but to me it happened every single time, and I don't know. I'd rather flip a coin and see who wins.
So you don't like it's not random. You don't like the unpredictability of having to pre-program your moves. So do you like Robo Rally or any programming games?
No,
or you don't like,
cannot stand Robo Rally.
All right, well that explains something.
Yeah, and that's where I can't stand Robo Rally either. So I'm hard pressed, other than theme, to explain why I love Dragon and Flagon so much. But we had a little conversation about that. Rafe and I did after the game.
I somehow thought the game was like, Craig, what's the name of that game that we were actually also talking about where you have those heroes and you can't fall in love with them because they're going to die? Yeah.
Tomb.
I don't know why, maybe because of the setting, the tables, I thought it was like Tomb.
Oh.
I thought it was, like Steve Bonacore and his team, based on nothing, just my own head.
Right.
So I was like, oh, it's Robo Rally with fantasy.
All right.
So, but did get to play Feast for Odin twice. That's the Uwe Rosenberg game.
Twice. Wow.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely loved it. Agricola's still number one.
That guy is dialed in on you, though.
Oh, yeah. I really liked it. It's because you can it's a solitaire game. I'm just having fun doing my thing. And dare I say, but I think Craig might, no, he's not going to like it per se, but this game is not as strict to you as Agricola is, whereby you're playing solo solitaire, but you have 8 different options that you can do, which your opponent then can't screw you out of. You're not waiting for your one option and you're like, oh, great, Russ just took all the fish. Now what do I do? Mm-hmm. It was very easy to go, okay, all right, well, you got the fish, I'll get the furs. Now, mind-blowingly complicated when like Matt tried to explain the game. Me, Greg, and Christian, all of our brains melted. We're like, it was as if he was speaking Chinese. I was like, I don't completely do not know what you're trying to tell me. I had no idea what the objective was. I have no idea what the board was. Zippola. But it came crystal clear within 2 turns. I was like, oh, I get it now. And it's one of those games, Russ, where the board completely explains everything. Like once you learn the symbolism of the board, the move, you could be like, oh, I
got it. That's cool. So did you do you think it's as good as Agricola, better than Agricola? Where do you think it is?
Oh, it's better than Agricola.
Really?
That's
exciting.
Yeah, because of the not as hardcore.
Okay.
Oh, and Agricola has the problem with those hand of cards. You get those hand of cards with those professions, and it causes massive analysis paralysis because you have 14 cards that you're looking at every turn and wondering which one's the best. This one has cards, but you don't get a hand of them. You just get to draw 1 or 2. So you're like, oh, this one or that one, and you play it. So I still like Agricola more, probably because it's my first love. But but I don't mind the hardcoreness of it. But I also realize that I will probably never win Feast for Odin ever, because I'm off having my own little happy existence while all the better gamers, like Christian and Matt and Greg are able to completely, grok the system and make a gajillion points.
Right. Got it.
So
Okay.
it's one of those games that I might not want to play all the time because I'm probably never going to win, as defeatist as that sounds.
Oh, well, that's a shame. But it sounds like you like the idea of it and the mechanics and everything, and with the right group, you'd have a lot.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. Yes. Really good game.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How about you, Craig? What have you been playing?
All right. Well, first we'll start with 2 weeks ago, where I decided I needed to brush up on Konflict 47 because I have failed to the few times I've tried to get a game in the last month and a half. I have failed. So I thought, I'm going to be running this whole game. I need to remember the rules. So Dave and Andy from the Nerd Herders both agreed to surrender their Tuesday night gaming to me, and each one of them took one of the sides, the Germans and the Americans, that we had all set up using Russ's models for the Germans and mine for the Americans, and it was a 1,209-point battle.
Nice.
It's nice to be the guy who's doing this, doing the whole scenario. So you want that last model? Oh, no problem. Just make sure the other guy gets the same amount. And it's based on the one of the missions going around for bolt action in the big tournament scene run off of England, but I've seen other websites from Australia and other places that all used the mission also, and it's called the Kitty Hawk Down. I think it's called Kitty Hawk Down.
Oh.
And it refers to an airplane that crashes on the center line of the board at the beginning of turn 4, and everybody is trying to get to the airplane. And the way the mission is written, because it's for tournaments, you don't need an airplane or anything like that. You just need a crater. And so basically the thing craters in, completely destroys itself, and you're just trying to get into the crater. And whoever has the most units with at least one model, infantry and artillery, with at least one model inside the crater wins the game. So we played it straight up out of the box on Tuesday with Dave and Andy, with Matt looking on. And it took a long time. I forget how long it takes, especially when you're kind of overthinking deployment sometimes, when you have one of those missions where the entire army deploys onto the board. You don't start deployed. So that took a long time. So I decided I was going to do away with that at Captain Con. But the game went great. The board looked awesome. Everything. It's one of those projects that now that it's done, it looked exactly the way I pictured it in my head. Everything I wanted to do came out at least as cool as I wanted it to come out. So I was super excited about the terrain. I was super excited about the scenario and the way it worked. And I loved the objective where I got a Messerschmitt model and I built it and banged the crap out of it and burnt it with a lighter.
Looked
and
awesome.
Painted all the damage onto it. Yeah, you check out the Twitter feed for all the cool visuals. And I made a big base for it that even has the crater as it comes crash landing in, and the landing gear's all smashed up and everything. And so when we played last Tuesday, it was very interesting. It was a tie, 2 units to 2 units. And then when we did it at TempleCon, which we'll talk about a lot more detail later, it ended up being the same thing. So it was 2 units and 2 units. It was a tie, although it was much more tenuous on the German side at Captain Con. They had 2 zombies and a 2-man command team, and that's all they had against a almost full squad of heavy infantry for the U.S. and almost a full squad of airborne infantry for the U.S. So
those zombies.
The zombies and those zombies were hunkering down by that airplane, taking the hard cover. They went down at one point, and they were just impossible to dislodge. It was crazy. Meanwhile,
we had a tough time with those guys.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the command team just kind of waited behind the plane in an orange grove and then at the last moment on turn, they were the second to the last die out of the bag on the last turn, and they made their run to get to the cockpit, and that gave the Americans only one activation to try to shoot them, and they didn't have anything in place to do it. They only had that one die left, which was a unit that was having massive coherency issues. So it was close, but it was a tie. So that was a lot of fun. Reese has gone on a little rampage lately where he wants to play lots of minis games with me. So I love doing that. So we've played another game of Frostgrave, which is how I realized that. Oh, yeah, that's right. I lost my Frostgrave rulebook to the flood last year when the pipe burst, right about this time, actually. And I hadn't remembered that. And so I had just put it back with my other rulebooks. Then when I went to open it, was full of mold and completely destroyed. So that was gross.
Ouch.
So we just tried to wing it with one of my little review papers that I usually build up. And then today we actually played Dead Zone. He wanted to try science fiction.
Oh, okay.
So we played Dead Zone.
How did that go over? Did you play the full rules?
Yeah, well, I mean, for the most part, I explained the rules, and it's more like I'm giving him tactical options, and he's choosing which one he thinks is best right now. But he's grasping the command dice and the way all the math works with the dice roll, the opposed dice rolls and things like that. So it's more like working on the basics. But we did use all the rules, yeah, and he won fair and square. So it was quite cool.
I didn't list Konflict 47 because I knew Craig would bring it up in his list. My impression of playing it was loved the scenery, loved the look of the models. And this happened with Bolt Action too. Like when I'm actually playing it, I don't know. I feel like I'm just flipping a coin. It could just be maybe the mission, or it could just be that people were playing a little on the slower side for my taste, but they were clearly really enjoying themselves with the decisions they had to make and stuff. But I didn't find that feeling when I played Gates of Antares, and that's happened to me twice with playing Bolt Action in this. So I don't know what it is.
It might have been the one experience because I'm not sure it's translating in my head, but
yeah,
I don't know, could be.
Yeah,
I don't know. Interesting.
That's it.
And then I didn't get a lot of other gaming in because of stuff we'll talk about when we talk about Captain Con. But I did play Super Rhino by Chaba.
Ooh, how'd you?
And that was crazy fun.
Now, what makes a Rhino super?
Well, it's got a little Rhino meeple. It's got a little Super Rhino meeple.
I already like it.
And it's very, very simple and very, very fast. And it's basically building a house of cards. Or a tower of cards, and placing occasionally having to place this meeple combined with Uno. So everybody has a hand of cards, and the cards have a shape on them, which is a combination of other cards that are bent at right angles in the middle. So they're just simple right angles, and that tells you how you have to build the next level of the tower that you're building. And then there's other symbols on the card that might be like skip the next person or reverse the order, or you times two, so you can place two of your cards down. And it's just like Uno. You're trying to get rid of your hand of cards. There's also cards that have a little circle on it with the Rhino, which means after you have done it and built your part of the tower, then the next person, before they go, they have to remove the Rhino from wherever it already is in the tower and then place it directly in the circle where you placed it on the top of the tower without the tower falling down. So it's a very much of a balancing act. And we had the tower up really, really high. It was probably 3 feet high at one point before it collapsed. And it's kind of like you're supposed to run around. You're supposed to go around and keep playing hand after hand until there's only one person left, I guess. But we were just playing. I mean, it was late at night when we started playing. Myself was not partaking, but most of the people around the table were feeling no pain, shall we say. And so it was very impressive that we got the tower that high. But it was fun. It was a fun, light, fast, friendly game. It was really cool. Just a little yellow box with a Super Rhino on the cover. And just a fun, fast game. I really, really had fun with it.
Nice.
And then we played, as Rafe said, Dragon and Flagon. And I think we had 7 players going.
Yep.
So it was a big Dragon and Flagon game. And it was fun. It's a blast. I always like it. But I totally...
Did
What's that?
Did everybody still enjoy it? Was Rafe the only person?
Oh
who's kinda
yeah,
like mad about
no,
it?
I think everybody really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it was only me.
Yeah, even the people who were at the beginning, like it can sometimes be hard for Ian like to learn a game in that kind of environment because he kind of like doesn't really. If it's not fun and engaging immediately, he kind of gets frustrated. But he got into it even. His wife Amy was playing. We had a bunch of people playing. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, I got crushed. And I totally see where Rafe's going because it is a frustrating game, and I don't understand. If you explained the game to me, I would tell you I would never want to play it. It's weird. It has all of the weird little things in it that I don't particularly care for. Like I'm planning this big thing and then it doesn't work because somebody's knocked me down or pulled the rug out from under me, or I just don't get the initiative in the right order. In fact, in that game, it was pretty standard. I don't think any time my character chit was in a stack, I went before the people I had to go before. So it was every time. But for whatever reason, it's fun. It's wacky. I enjoy the hell out of it. So
there you go.
I don't know why, but I do love it. I do love it. I do. And I think it's a great game. I think it's extremely well designed. I understand why, like, if you don't like games where you get messed up with stuff, you might find it frustrating. And I don't know why I don't, but I don't. I just really enjoy it. No.
Yeah.
No, there you go.
So that's me. Russ, what about you?
Well, my list is very short. Unfortunately, I had a lot of work to do over the last 2 weeks, so I didn't get as much gaming in as I would like. However, I did manage to get in another game of War Machine with my daughter Rose, and we play almost weekly now on Thursdays. Cool. And what I really this time around, she finished her latest Warcaster, Rafe. So this is the first time she's got a new Warcaster, or should I say
not
Warlock?
Kaya?
Warlock. No, well, she has Kaya already, but her new Warlock is the. I keep forgetting the name. I'm sure JJ will tweet me about this. It's the one. It's a guy. He's in the tree. His soul's in the tree, and then he's got
dude in the tree.
a
Dude in the shrub.
Dude in the shrub.
Man.
Yeah, dude.
Shrub man.
Tree dude and shrubbery. Right. And it was a great game. And I played it. She played against my Signar, and she was victorious because the tree guy, his feet. Rafe, you ready for this?
Yep.
His feet is a 10-inch radius. It's his control radius. His entire control radius becomes forest for a turn. His entire control radius. Plus, he already generates trees. So basically, he locked me down. Then, of course, almost all of her army is Pathfinder. So she locked me down. I couldn't really get away, and then charged Striker and got him. And it was the first time she won against Signar in a non-scenario where the mission was just kill the caster. So we rolled up, killed the caster. Normally, she's beaten me in Signar, but it always has to be one of the objective ones, and she uses the speed of Kaya to get around. But this time it was a really good battle, and that tree guy's awesome. And of course, as you guys know, when you change your Warlock, boom, it's a whole new game. So she's really excited about that. So yeah, still enjoying War Machine, as you said, Rafe. It's still I just really like it. It's just a fun, relaxing game. We love the universe, we love the models, we love painting them together, and still having a blast playing it. And I like the new edition. So good stuff there. What about modeling, Rafe? You done any modeling lately?
Nope, zero. I keep dreaming about wanting to model my Shadows over Brimstone models, but I don't.
Okay. All right.
That's because of our next segment.
Right. How about you, Craig?
I have been very busy, mainly doing terrain. So what have I done? I have done bocage for the table. It was actually more shrubs because I didn't do the stony base, which somebody did point out at one point. But I loved it. It was awesome. It was. I actually did a couple more steps than Gordon told us when he told us all about it. I went and got it. It's you get one sheet of basically industrial air filter for giant air conditioners. You can get them at Home Depot, not at Lowe's. Don't make that mistake. The ones at Lowe's don't look like bushes and they're blue. The ones that come from Home Depot are green. Although I sprayed them brown and that worked awesome. And then I just white glue and dark green flock from the Woodland Scenics, and it looked awesome. I thought it looked phenomenal. The brown at the bottom looked just like the base of the shrubs, and the top was all green except for parts where it didn't stay glued, so you could see the branches inside the shrubs. Gave a really awesome three-dimensional effect. Again, you can see a lot of that on the Twitter feed from the event and the table. So I loved that. The dirt roads came out awesome. I loved the way the dirt roads came out. Again, I made those out of latex. I know a couple people have tweeted and emailed me asking for the how-to video, and there are several how-to videos out there. I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you. It's been one heck of a week. Honestly, though, if you Google latex 28 millimeter War Games terrain dirt road, though that will get you to where you need to get. I've used plastic as the base. I would not do that. I think from now on I would use the fabric that they recommend because that kind of holds it together a little bit better. But I love the way it looked. I based and flocked 40 trees, 20 orange trees for the big orange grove on the board, and then 20 just sort of small regular trees that would spruce up the board also. Those I got from eBay, I think directly from China for a price that would make any American model railroading company cry.
Yeah, that's
seriously.
cool.
I mean, really.
Not the cry part, but the pricing part was awesome.
I mean, 20 trees for really like probably less than $10.
Wow.
And they're all at least twice, if not 2.5 times the size of the models you're playing with. So it's really cool. I painted up and finished 2 dead cows and a dead horse. That was in memoriam for a bit of strange news that struck Games Workshop last week. We'll leave it at that. And
wait, whoa, that's cryptic.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to, step on any hooves.
Wow, that's what you did there.
Okay, I went over my head, folks.
Yeah. Well, Google GW.
Okay.
And fur.
Got it.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rosemary was the name of the Messerschmitt. It actually came. I put all the decals on and everything, and one of the decals was this really cool little rosemary thing. So I put that on there, and that's where I got the name and the crater and everything. So that was awesome. I really enjoyed putting that together. Check out the Twitter feed for all of those. And I am now priming and prepping a ton of metal pirates for Blood and Plunder, which is my next big project that I'm super excited about.
Woo-hoo.
And that's me. What about you, Russ?
Well, I've done no actual modeling, again, due to work, but I've done virtual modeling.
What? Uh-huh.
Yes.
No, shenanigans.
No, Rafe, have you seen this game, Might and Magic Showdown?
No.
Okay.
Do
so
tell.
these guys, I mentioned this on App of the Ep last time. So what these guys have done, you know how a lot of miniature game companies have been trying to add video games to their miniature games, Excellus and Gollum Arcana, Well, these guys have said, what if we could take the awesome, that is the creativeness of the painting hobby, and put it entirely in a video game? And that's what they've done. So when you go into this game, it actually looks like a full 3-dimensional table. And you can see your paintbrushes lying there. You see your paint pots all over the place. There's dice scattered around. When you fight other models, you can see it's like you're on a tabletop and you can see the posters in the back of the room. Like you're
This is an app?
It's a game. It's a Steam. Yeah, it's a Steam game. And what you do is you collect these models, and when you get them, they're gray. And then you go into the painting part of the app, and you paint them. Now, you actually can zoom in really tight and paint each little element. You could paint every little part of the guys. You can spend as much time on this painting thing as you want. It's not like some of the old 40K games where you change the color of your Marine's armor. This is not that. This is like getting in there or customizing a character in an RPG. This is like getting in there and choosing to paint eyelashes or going with a plaid pattern if you want on a smooth. You can do whatever the heck you want. It's missing some features that I would like the ability to do some kind of faux dry brushing or maybe some inking. But it does do some things you can't normally do. Like there's actually a glow paint, so you can paint the eyes glowing yellow kind of thing. Which is
cool.
And then what happens is when you fight, the model you paint comes to life, and you can actually choose his pose also. So you got your model on a little base there, and you paint them. You can choose his one of 3 poses, and then you put him on the table, and then when you activate him, he actually moves around. So imagine, what every gamer imagines when you paint your models, you imagine them coming to life. Well, imagine they could come to life exactly as you painted them. You paint them terribly.
And is this 1v1? It's one model fighting one model?
It's small units of models. So the premise is kind of like 3 to 4 to 5 models versus 3 to 4 to 5 models. It's not army on army.
That's still pretty cool, though.
It's interesting. It's early access. They haven't got the performance all worked out yet. It's a little laggy.
Okay.
The other thing they did was...
I thought you weren't playing early access
Well, but this the idea with this was so unique, I had to try it out. And what's also interesting about it is, like, they had this brilliant idea. You know these free-to-play games? The more you play them, the more you unlock. So the more battles you win, you unlock more miniatures you can collect, which makes sense. But you also unlock more paints. So there's actually paint colors that are rare and common. But the problem is they sort them in your paint bucket by type, by rare or common. The problem with that plan is
That's lame.
To find all your purples, you got to scroll all over the place. So how many purples?
No.
So they need a way to
Who made that?
sort by color. They really would be cool too if you had a virtual bucket where you could drag the colors you're currently using on your current guy together, so you always have access to the same purple. Like there's little things they could do to make it a lot better, but it's early still.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to spend that much time painting a virtual model, but at the same time, it does have that thing that miniature gaming has where I could paint it on the side, and then if you were to play me online, Rafe, you'd see the model I painted. You'd be like, oh, nice job on his armor, kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't know, but it was interesting. I had to try it out. So that is Might and Magic Showdown virtual painting.
Cool.
I don't know if that counts as modeling, but I snuck it in. What are you going to do?
I'll allow it.
All right. What about other geeky goodness, Rafe? What about, video games, shows? What are you doing? Books?
So I'll list briefly the video games because I think we'll talk about those. I'm doing the Telltale version of the Batman Choose Your Own Adventure
Do you
stories.
like that? I've seen good things about it. What do you think?
I'm only maybe like scene one in, maybe only 30 minutes.
Now, is this point and click adventure kind of thing where you click on the screen and go there kind of thing like old Sierra Online games? No.
No. It's like, have you played The Walking Dead? Telltale Adventures Walking Dead?
No.
Oh, I thought you did all those.
No, it's
back in
Walking
the
Dead. I
360 days.
don't. No, Walking Dead, dude. I don't like zombies. We've been down this
okay.
road. Unless they're Conflict
that's a
47 German zombies, they don't count.
That's a good.
There you go.
That's a good series.
All right.
Poor little Clementine. Anyway, so no, it's the one where Batman's on the screen and he's interacting with, Alfred, and then there's these choices that pop up A, B, C, A, X, Y, and you have to, you click it, and then he says the words or a variation of the words. So it's that, and then when you're doing combat, you're like A, you press A, and then Batman punches, and you press B, and then he kicks, and it's one of those choose your own adventure type of games.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't play it and blow my socks off, and I'm like, oh my god, I got to play this all the way through. But at the same time, it's like, this is pretty cool. I mean, the Walking Dead one was like wrenches your heart out. So I don't know if the Batman one will have that. And I also played The Wolf Among Us. Remember how I did all those with the Telltale Adventures?
Yeah, right.
So far, Wolf Among Us was better too. But again, I'm only 20, 30 minutes in. Right. Playing a metric ton of Tom Clancy's The Division. We'll talk about that more later. Mm-hmm. Playing HOTS. Do you know what HOTS is, Russ?
No, what's HOTS?
HOTS is Heroes of the Storm.
Oh, so yes, that's the Blizzard mashup MOBA. Right?
Yeah, it's the Blizzard answer to League of Legends.
Yes.
Game is super fun, and it just shows you the freemium way of having games, which I'm sure we'll talk about. It was really cool. And then I was playing WoW with the new patch. Really, really, really liked it. I just unsubbed from it, not because they disappointed me, not because of anything. I just, you got to the point where you're like, okay, I leveled up my character to max level. I did some of the end game stuff. I'm like, okay. That was good for now.
There you go.
So that's pretty much it. The other thing, though, is I'm going to highly recommend the OA. Have you guys watched or heard of the OA?
No. How is that?
Oh, my gosh. Netflix original.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
It's one season. I don't even want to say anything more. Like, you just have to experience it. I think both of you will like it. It's incredible.
I think I've seen like a preview of it.
Yeah, people are talking about it.
Good. It looked good.
Yeah, people are talking about it. When I saw the first episode, I wanted to watch all the episodes. I wish you guys had seen it because I'd love to talk to you about it. When you guys, maybe that'll be another time I warm up the third chair.
What's the premise? What's the premise of OA?
Anything else super exciting?
You got to draw me in, though, Ray.
Others.
What's that? What's the premise of OA? Why do I want to watch it?
I almost hesitate to tell you.
Is it sci-fi? Throw me a bone here. Sci-fi? Is it fantasy? Is it just modern day detective story?
Good news is it was renewed, as was Travelers. So that's
Travelers is awesome, dude. Oh yeah.
The premise. Okay. I can tell you this.
Right.
The show starts when this blonde woman, maybe 30, shows up. She's been missing for 8 years, and she appears back to her family. And when she went missing, she was blind. And when she comes back, she's not blind.
Ooh, okay.
So,
all right, that's enough. That's got me hooked. I want to try it now.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Trust me, you guys watched the first episode.
It's only 8 episodes.
Yep.
Short and sweet. Okay.
Really good. And see, it's not a spoiler release. It's not spoiler per se, but let me put it to you this way: because it's the one season, they're able to tell a story kind of like Rogue One.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. That's it. That's all I'm going to say on it.
All right.
Let's see. What about you, Craig?
Let's see. On your recommendation, I started watching The Good Place, and I really liked it, and I just finished the series last night.
Nice.
So
I like the ending. I
recommend it. It's very, very silly.
Yeah, oh yeah, of course.
So if you're not in the mood for something silly like flying cocktail shrimp and a giant toad threatening the neighborhood, then it's probably not for you. But that's
a TV show?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Rafe, you'll like this show. So The Good Place is the premise of the show is right from the beginning, people die, and they show up someplace, and they are in heaven, and it's called The Good Place. But right from the very beginning, and you see this in the ads, the one woman should not be there. She's actually not a good person, but she got misplaced there due to something. And so it's showing her trying to figure out how she's going to fit in heaven, where she's liking what heaven is, but she knows she doesn't belong, and how does she get through this? Right. Yeah. It's that. And it's a comedy. It's a sitcom. So it's very it's very slapsticky at times and funny, but Ted Danson is the main sort of I don't know the right term, guardian angel, I guess, of The Good Place.
Archangel.
Yeah. Architect.
He's the architect.
Right. Yeah, so check it out.
And that's another one. That's only 13 half-hour episodes, so not a huge commitment.
All right.
So I really enjoyed that. Vikings season. This season of Vikings was cranked it up to 12.
No spoilers. I'm still on season 2.
No spoilers at all. Just gonna say that the season, the last 2 episodes were probably insane. Actually, it probably didn't slow down after like mid-season. It just cranked up faster and faster and faster. Some amazing stuff. Yep. Just started watching The Hunted last night. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
It's a very cool reality TV concept that I think is very well done. It's 9 couples were chosen. And there's a 4-state area that's about 100. It's about 1,000 square mile or 100,000 square miles of the southeast part of the United States. And they're given a 2-day window, and anywhere within that 2-day window, someone from the TV show can just suddenly appear, tap them on the shoulder, and say, "You're a fugitive." And they, from that moment, they have an hour lead time. There's a 32-person professional team that's going to track them down.
Whoa!
And it includes former FBI, former U.S. Marshals. There's a former British intelligence guy, and on the street they have bounty hunters. They have special forces guys. They have Delta Force. I think there's a Delta Force. I think there's a SEAL team guy, and so all of them are connected through this HQ, which is in the middle of the area. And you have an hour to get out. You have one bank account with a debit card you can use that's got $500 on it total, and you can only get out 100 at a time. But you have signed your life over to this show, so everything in your life is open to them. They can look at anything, and they can access any records you immediately open. So when you use that ATM, it immediately tells them where you are.
Wait, I got some questions.
Oh my
goodness. Anytime you contact any of your friends and they help you, they immediately their entire lives are open also, and the hunt team has access to everything they have as well.
Wow.
And it's amazing because every episode focuses on just a few of the couples, and there's only been 3 episodes so far, or it might have been 4 because I think there was a double
the lawyer
episode.
has some questions about this. Lawyer, go.
Well, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Is this a fantasy show or this is a reality show?
No, it's a reality show.
Okay.
It's a reality show. And if you can stay away from the hunters for 28 days, and it's not a competition. If everybody did it, everybody would get it, I believe. If you can stay away from the hunters for 28 days, you get $250,000.
Wow. Now, you just telling me this, I'm like, of course I could stay away for 28 days. But like watching this, is like, it'd be harder than you think.
I think it's kind of bad for society because it's showing you all the ways that the police will find you. But it's some of the people you're like, that's a dumb thing to do, and you're immediately going to get caught, and they do get caught. Some of them get caught like within 8 hours. But then other people are out there doing stuff, and there's one couple, I'm not going to tell you anything, but there's one couple who did exactly what I think Karen and I would do, and then their plan went wrong. There's another team, like the best team so far, in my opinion, is there's this guy who's a former gangbanger who is now a defense attorney.
Ooh.
So he's seen it from both sides. Yeah, and so he's got his whole plan, and he's got everything, and he's got his girlfriend of 2 years who has like lived this privileged life, so she has no idea what she's gotten into. It's really cool. The only kind of false note I would say is the hunters are kind of overplaying the drama.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, here we have 2 new fugitives. Here they are. This is this guy. This is this guy. I want them found. And you're like, okay, it's a game.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But other than that, like, you totally buy the fact that these people who are being hunted are like horrifically paranoid.
Right.
And,
now,
and they're like, it's insane because you know where everybody is. You know where the bounty hunter teams are.
Right.
You know where the team is. They show you on maps like the route that they're taking. And so you know, like, this team is not in danger. You know there are no hunter teams around them. But they're like, oh, my God, did you see that SUV? Did you see that Suburban with tinted windows? That's it. We're busted. And they're like running and ducking under a bush and it's all kinds of
Sounds kind of cool.
It's
Now,
very cool. I really enjoyed it.
What's to prevent
so
a
far.
survival person or a naturalist just going out and living in the woods for 28 days solid?
That's
Like
a good question, Russ.
Just running out to the woods of West Virginia and just hiding
Can
out.
I answer? Can I answer?
Yeah, go.
Please.
Can I?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Oh.
Oh.
But no one does that?
Okay. I didn't say that.
Oh. Ooh,
I
okay,
didn't
good.
Say that. I didn't say that at all. In fact, I think that's where most of us who have lived our lives at least with one foot in the fantasy realm,
Right.
and we've always thought maybe someday I'm going to have to do this because sci-fi, whatever. I think that's where most of our brains would go, and I think you will be fascinated by what happens.
Do they have satellites with heat tracking? That would.
They do not, but they do have drones.
Drones. So they have to know. They have to figure out at least which forest you went to, right, regionally.
And it's very hard for you to get from where they know you started because they
Right.
know exactly where you started.
Right.
It's very hard for you to get from there
Right.
to a forest they won't know, like,
Right.
They'll
They'll
I don't know.
suspect.
and
Yeah.
they have full access to all of your social media.
Right. Well, you
So
don't
watching
tweet
that
it.
show has convinced me that I'm right by not going on Facebook.
Right.
ever.
I got
Well,
Foursquare.
that's for sure.
Just checked into the White Mountains. You would
exactly.
you would do
But
that.
not only that, they're looking at your past. They know
Right,
exactly. They're looking at your
They know
past.
where you would know,
It's
right.
insane. It's fascinating because they have experts, intelligence gathering experts, explaining to you during the show, well, this is what we're looking for. This is what we found. This is what we think it means. And they're like trolling your Facebook.
Right.
One thing they did, they trolled this couple's Facebook by putting a wanted poster on their front page. They hacked into their Facebook account and put a wanted poster on their front page.
Now, did they have to give their Facebook credentials or they hack it?
No. Well, they give everything, but these guys hack.
But just
If
don't
you're
go on
smart,
social media.
if-
Easy peasy.
Doesn't matter, Rafe.
The history's there, though.
But they're
we're
not.
saying.
They're looking at the history.
Right. They're looking at your patterns, so they would know that I camp in the White Mountains all the time, and that's probably where I
And
go.
so let's say you're
Right.
super smart. Let's say you deleted everything, right?
Yeah.
And then let's say you started a new account.
Mm-hmm.
These guys found the new account and cracked it.
Oh, I see.
And I'm not going to tell you how, but it's watching it. You're like, oh my God,
I gotta
I
check
never
this out.
believed they could do that.
Yeah.
It's insane. You find out more about the post office and the postal service than you ever thought you wanted to know.
Well, post office is dangerous. That's how they got Al Capone.
Yeah, but you'd think
Now we
nowadays.
got Al Capone.
Russ.
The lawyer chimes in again. See?
Russ,
There
this
you
is
go.
so easy. Look, it's so easy. I'm not on Facebook. I just have to run up a stream for, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile. Boom, they can't find me.
Right, we all know that. We all know that, right?
No, heat tracking
Absolutely.
drones, though, Rafe. Heat tracking drones.
So far, I have
He
seen
said they
no
don't have heat
track-
tracking. He said they just have drones.
Oh, okay.
I have seen no heat tracking. I have seen, however, a drone, and it was hilarious.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I've also seen a lawnmower that somebody interpreted as a drone, and that was even funnier.
and I would just do the face-off scene. I would switch my face for Craig.
You
Well,
can do that.
Okay, that
Easy.
would work. Yeah.
That was also tried by a couple who got into a massive disguise.
Yeah, hiding in
Wow.
plain sight would be brilliant. Yeah, that would be.
They're not stupid. I mean, they're average people, but most of them are not stupid. So they're
Okay.
trying things that would make sense.
Was this?
It's fascinating
right.
to see some of the things that cause some of the people to get caught.
I want to
It's
check this out
fascinating.
now. All right, I gotta watch this. You got me thinking.
Yeah, you got me intrigued.
okay, I'm
Very
in.
interesting.
I'm in.
So anyway, so there's that.
Okay.
Timeless is still awesome. Loving
Yeah.
Timeless.
Yeah, I can't get into that.
Oh, you should.
I don't care.
Yeah.
That's because
You're
you are
lost.
a bad human being.
You're lost.
Yeah,
right.
probably.
Yeah, you're lost. You're a lost soul
Because
wandering
I'm
in the
watching
wilderness.
True Art called the OA.
Yeah, clearly.
Okay.
I'm rereading Thud by Terry Pratchett because I just love all of the Discworld novels, but particularly the Discworld novels that feature Sam Vimes. Those are my favorites. And I'm re-listening to Nemesis Games by James S.A. Corey, the Abyss duo. And I'm surprised I didn't do this before, because having just finished Babylon's Ashes, the latest book, I was like, wow, I wonder how that, I don't know exactly. So I'm going to go back, and I love Audible because I could just go back and
Right.
I don't even have to pay to read it a second time.
Exactly.
Because it's right there. Boom, download, boom, listening to it within 5 minutes of deciding I want to listen to it again. So
Right.
I re-listened to Gods of Risk, the short story that predates the next couple of books, and then I'm listening now to Nemesis Games, fascinated by how much I missed the first time that connects it or sets up things that happen in the next book, Babylon's Ashes. And I'm telling you, I think these last two books, the latest two books in the series, are probably my favorite two books in the whole series.
Wow.
Although they are set up, you can't just skip all the others because it's all set up. I mean, the universe is so well crafted. You need all the background to understand what's going on and to really appreciate the depth of it. But I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Craig, how do you feel about that?
I love it.
I was checking.
I love it almost as much as the fact that they're making an audiobook out of my book.
That's exciting.
Hey,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yep. Should be
Who's
available
narrating it?
early summer. Ray is a listener of the show, and he, inspired in part by the show, started to become a narrator for audiobooks. He's done a bunch of
Books. He's done a lot of books, Craig.
Philip K. Dick.
Oh.
And he's done a whole sci-fi series. So he's been working a lot. He was then picked up by Wing Tassar to work with them, and he did 2 books for them, and now he is working on mine, which was an awesome, surreal experience because we had to go through and do a full phonetic listing of every character.
Right.
So that was awesome.
Ah.
So, and I hadn't even thought about that. And then various words and things that I had created for the story. There are probably at least 12 different alien races that feature in the book. So he wanted to know what they looked like and what their predominant features were, so that he could maybe make them sound the way they sound, the way I imagined they sound. So Ray Greenlee, check him out. He's got a whole bunch of books now narrated, and the next one is going to be mine. So super, super excited about that.
That's wicked cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's
really-
me. What about you, Russ?
Well, real quick, because I'm still leading the third book now in the Pillars of Reality, the Assassins of Altus, I guess. Really good. Still enjoying that a lot. Also, a couple shows I've been watching. Have you guys seen Powerless yet?
No, but I saw a preview. It looked funny.
So Powerless, the premise of this show, it's in the DC universe. The premise of this show is, what are the civilians all doing while those superheroes keep blowing up half the city every other day? And it's a comedy.
I like it.
I don't know any actors' names, so I will tell you the characters I know. It features Wash from Firefly, and it features Abed from Community, as well as some other folks. And basically, these people actually work for Wayne Enterprises. They work for Mr. Wayne, but not Bruce. This is Bruce's cousin. They live in Charm City, not Gotham. Bruce's cousin is actually a jerk, and he keeps trying to get Bruce to move him to the Gotham branch of Wayne Enterprises, which is clearly better. And he's kind of the worst boss. Meanwhile, the Wayne Enterprises division here is one of the ones that does inventions. And so they're trying to invent something cool and make money. And it's kind of like a cross between kind of like IT Crowd, where you have these bunch of engineers that are all goofballs, and the new character is a woman coming in and trying to help them get things done. But it was pretty fun. The pilot was good, but not great, but I see potential. So I'm hopeful.
Okay.
A lot of pilots stumble, especially as the cast finds their their synergies and stuff. So we'll see what happens here and gets their chemistry going. But there's a lot of good people in there and a lot of options. And there were a couple moments I laughed out loud. So I think it's got some potential. So that was that.
Okay.
Also got sucked in. My daughters and I are now watching. Well, my youngest daughter and I really are enjoying the new Voltron on Netflix. So last year, Netflix rebooted Voltron and just came out with series 2, season 2 now for it as well. It's really pretty fun, really well written. I think the comedy's really good. It doesn't take itself too seriously. My youngest daughter and I think it reminds us a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's got that sort of click going on there of fun, but also pretty good story. And my oldest daughter is sure she doesn't like it, but when she's in the room with us, I notice her out of the corner of my eye watching the show more than she's not. So I think she's enjoying it too, but we'll see. We're like episode 3 now, but really enjoying that. Also, video games though, since I've been traveling a lot for work and on planes, I've been playing a lot of video games. So as we'll talk more about later in this episode, I've been playing a lot of Uncharted and things, but I've been playing a lot of portable games, and I'm like 3/4 of the way through now Broken Age. And Broken Age occupied me for most of the time on a plane, and it was originally out for, it's one of those point-and-click adventures, and it came out originally on computers, but now it's on iOS and Android. And the premise of it is, in the beginning of the game, you can start playing either this girl who's on this like little forest-covered planet, or this boy who's in a spaceship. And as you start to play the game, these seem like disconnected stories, but they eventually connect in a really interesting way. Very compelling, and you won't predict what you think is going to happen. I didn't. I thought it was really pretty good. So enjoyed that. Also playing a lot of Warhammer 40,000 Sanctus Reach, which is essentially the starter box in a video game. So you can play Space Wolves versus Orcs. There is a campaign, but basically it's pretty close to a Warhammer 40K tabletop game.
And is this mobile again?
No, it's not mobile. But what's really cool about it is there's a couple rules that aren't in 40K, but I like them. Like one of them is you can shoot through other units, but if you do, there's a chance you hit the guys. So cool. Things like that. But terrain all works. All the vehicles are in there. Like you eventually get the Titans. And you have, Death Copters. It's what I like about it is it's not quite up to today's snuff for graphics. So it's almost like 5 to 6 years behind in graphics, but I like that because it makes it playable on lower end computers and it doesn't eat up all your battery life. So I have a Microsoft Surface I travel with, and the Surface isn't really an amazing gaming rig, and if you play a really high end game on it, it just sucks the battery life down. But what's great about this is it doesn't take a lot of battery life. It really feels like you're playing 40K, and so you can get like 3 hours of airplane time on it and battle some orcs, which is always fun. So enjoying that. Also, Speaking of 40K, BFG Leviathan is exactly Battlefleet Gothic, like shot for shot. And this is available on iOS and Android, and it is fantastic. If you like Battlefleet Gothic, just go get BFG Leviathan. Loving that.
Just go get it.
Also playing Diablo 3 with my daughters again as well. So that's what we've been playing on weekends. So,
on the Xbox?
Yeah, on the Xbox One, yeah.
I want to touch about that a little bit. So I love Diablo 3.
Yeah.
Do you play this? Do they do the seasons on the Xbox?
So, they did a new version of it when the Diablo's, the 25th anniversary or whatever it was, came out. They released a new Xbox One version that was all like kicked up a notch for graphics, as well as some cool new loot and stuff you got for playing it. And some of the Overwatch character stuff were in there. Like I have Mercy's wings in there as a Crusader, which is kind of cool because they look like and they released some of the other characters now too. So the Xbox version now has pretty much most of the stuff on the PC version. So we've been playing it because we have multiple Xboxes, so we can all play co-op, but on separate screens, so that we don't have the problem with having to wait for someone to equip their gear. Because you can play split screen on the Xbox, but what happens is when someone starts to equip, you're waiting for 20 minutes. And my daughters love to customize their characters. So once one of them gets a new color or whatever, you can spend an hour waiting for them to customize their person. So at least if you have separate machines, you can all do it at once. So
that's okay. You just kind of answered it for me. Like I almost dialed into that when I was like, ooh, I'm gonna. I have a character I like half leveled, but I'm sort of looking. I don't quite want to do the seasons. I don't know if you know what that is exactly, but I don't know. I'm sort of like, I'm looking for the right thing to do to replay it, I guess. I should like Google or watch a YouTube video on like what to do in Diablo to replay it.
So we did that. We started over from scratch. There was a thing with the new version where you got these pauldrons that gave you better healing, so you could blast through the early levels on medium or on hard or expert difficulty level, which gives you better loot drops and better XP, so you level up quick. And then by like level 15, those things are no longer very good, and so you're kind of playing normally again. So if you want to blast through the intro and get to the good part of the game, you can do that. We kind of did that, and then we've been going forward. We're now in the last act, so we've got like maybe 2 hours left of gameplay, but we've been having a blast with it. It's just a lot of fun to kill monsters, basically.
Okay, all right. You're just going in there messing around.
Yeah, pretty
monsters.
much. We're not. I mean, we haven't seen all the cutscenes at the end, so we'll stop and watch the cutscenes, which is cool. But because we never played all the way to the very end of Diablo before. We kind of got about halfway through each time and then stopped. So this time we're going.
Oh, no kidding! You haven't gone to the end.
No, so we're kind of excited. So we're finally all caught up through. We're now as far as we've ever been. Like I said, I think we're in the final act, so we're probably an hour or two away from the ending.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, the final act's great.
Yeah. So I can't wait for that.
And there's the extra act after that.
Well, we're in the extra act. That's where we are. Yeah.
All right.
So that's cool. So that's what we've been playing. Any other achievements?
No.
All right, there you go. That's achievements.
That's achievements.
So here's the final score. Ripley has 147 victory points. Hicks has 132. I have 117. And Hudson has 87. That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over. What the frick are we going to do now? Put the game away.
Now it's time to talk about our friends over at BattleFoam.com.
BattleFoam.com.
Yeah, buddy. Craig, the Super Bowl has just ended. Wrapped up here. But,
wrapped up in such a good way.
Hardcore football fans really like to play their fantasy football year-round, right?
That's true.
And what better way to put your fantasy football teams into some form of safe transport than to use the brand new, highly official BattleFoam Fantasy Football Bag.
Highly official.
That's what it says. BattleFoam Official Fantasy Football Bag, Craig. It doesn't get any more
and
official
it has a very cool, official-looking fantasy football logo on it, too.
Let's say you played a fantasy football game that had a board on it. Let's say it came with a board. And let's say it came with some miniatures. Let's say those miniatures were, I don't know, maybe sometimes they were orcs, sometimes they were dwarves, sometimes they were goblins. Who knows what kind of fantasy football game might have those things in it? Well, this bag is awesome because on one side it pops open. It's got a spot for the game board, spot for any and all cards that might be in the game, other components with the game fit right in there. On the other side, it's chock full of foam, so all those great miniatures you painted up fit right in there. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
so it's great.
Absolutely. It's got space for everything you need. And that fantasy football game is huge lately. In fact, they sent us a copy.
Did they?
I must say.
We have to go look at that.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that, but yes, Games Workshop has been sending us an awful lot lately.
Not that this fantasy football bag is specifically for Games Workshop.
No. In fact, it is not. In any way, it is a official fantasy football bag.
Yes. Now, speaking of official, though, here's the beautiful thing. BattleFoam is the #1 supplier of licensed bags and foam for your favorite miniatures games. And Craig, it's not just miniature games, it's board games too. In fact, this is a dangerous one that just came through on the score bar.
Oh, yeah.
Conan, the foam for all the miniatures of Conan. I have the Conan Overlord game. As you guys, listeners will know, that I am a huge fan of Overlord versus players games. And Conan is a great variation on this. I am loving it. We got to get this to the table, Craig, so we can review it. It is awesome. And now BattleFoam has all the foam for that as well. So you need
look at that.
It's just, you got that's the thing. Board games now too, you can't transport them. Once you get these Kickstarters and everything else filled out, they don't fit back in the box, right? So you need that BattleFoam to get it where you're going to go. And don't forget too, while BattleFoam still is a great manufacturer for impossible to destroy bags, you can check your luggage, you can run over with the truck. All those options are there for you. Don't forget also they have really affordable light bags as well as cardboard structures to hold all your foam. So you maybe have one really, really good bag and you have a lot of other things just to keep your dust off your trays and switch them in and out between games. You can do all that sort of stuff with BattleFoam, including their great cardboard box range too, to keep all your foam organized as well. So you need it.
Absolutely.
They've got it at battlefoam.com.
And now, in an attempt to bring a small amount of dignity and decorum to this otherwise base form of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, I am proud to present... Oh, get on with it.
it's time for App of the App.
Seriously, Wakeland, I used to have my own segment, and now I'm relegating to announcing this pap.
Hey, you're lucky we still use you. Hello and welcome to another App of the App. This time around, I want to talk about an iOS one. It might be on Android too, but I've only seen it on iOS. And that game is Hidden Folk. Hidden like hiding and folk like people. And I found this one quite by accident. I was reading an article about someone who was really enjoying this game. It's a brand new game, and it's essentially a Where's Waldo type game. Now, when you look this game up, you're going to be shocked because I'm trying to get you excited about a Where's Waldo game that is priced at like $4.99 or something. It's under $5, but it's basically the price of a Starbucks coffee, pretty much for this thing, which in video game terms for mobile gaming is getting kind of pricey. But let me just tell you, this is a really relaxing, fun game. And the innovation here is really cute. And the drawing and art style is really nice. And so what you're really paying for here is the art, as well as the little animations and sort of the relaxing fun of finding images. And how the game basically works is it's a series of intricately drawn scenes, line-drawn, sort of pencil-drawn scenes of a bunch of little people, kind of the typical sort of style you might have seen of Where's Waldo, but think monochrome, so not colorful, but really neat little pictures of people. And along the bottom of the app are little icons of things in the drawing that you should find. And in the in the things you find, if you tap on one of them, it'll show like a little person wearing a particular shirt. And if you tap them, it'll say like, Julie likes to hang out near the pond. And so it's giving you a little hint as to where you might find this particular bit in the doodle. And you can kind of pinch and zoom in and out. What's also interesting is the drawing interacts with you. So you might notice near a pond, you don't really see Julie, but there's some bushes there. And if you start tapping the bushes, the leaves fall away, and it turns out Julie's hiding behind a bush. So it's kind of a hide-and-seek game, but also sort of a learn the clues game. And as you play through it, there's more activities that's happening on the screen. There's a particular level where you actually help someone walk through the world, and you have to kind of look for the things you need to do to help the person get through a particular level. So all kinds of, it's just a really relaxing, innovative, fun game. And if you're the kind of person who likes those kind of puzzles that you see in magazines like Highlights, spot the differences in the pictures, or Where's Waldo, or those kinds, you find those kinds of games interesting, you definitely want to check this one out. It's a lot of fun, very relaxing, and I think the art makes it well worth the price of a cup of coffee. And that is Hidden Folk on iOS.
Thank you for listening to another scintillating edition of App of the App, a segment in which,
Hey, less of that, more just getting on with the show.
seriously, Wakeland, you are like school in summer. No class.
Hey, welcome back. And this is me providing exactly the amount of positive input that I can to this segment, which is introducing it. So Russ loving his alliteration as he does. This is Russ rapping with Ragged Raef about video games. I don't know.
Terrible.
That's all I got. So, hey, guys,
there?
what's going on with video games? I may or may not stick around, and you won't know if I'm gone until you talk to me. All right?
Okay.
Fair
Take
enough.
it away, guys.
All right. Well, thank you, Craig. Anyway,
Every now and then I'm just going to laugh just so you know I'm still here.
that's fair.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
That's fair. All right, my first question,
go ahead,
Russ,
Raef.
is I could talk to you the whole segment about Tom Clancy's The Division. We're obviously not going to do that.
I hope not.
So we're just sort of having my envisionment of this segment is we're just sort of having coffee talk of where we've been, what are we doing, what are we up to, what's the state of the events, and that kind of stuff, right?
Right, exactly. So whatever we want to talk, since you haven't been on in a while, Raef, why don't you pick the first topic? What should we talk about? What have you been playing lately?
Okay, I'd like to talk to you about, I've played for the first time ever, I think, the same video game for the most time, other than an MMO.
I was going to say more than an MMO, because you played a lot of hours in those MMOs.
Yeah, other than like Lord of the Rings Online or even WoW. Now, what's interesting is we're talking about Tom Clancy's The Division, is a shooter MMO. But it doesn't feel like an MMO. It is. It has a lot of the same elements of an MMO, or perhaps it doesn't feel like it because I'm playing it on the Xbox One. I really like this game. I don't think this game is for everyone. I guess I'd like to give a quick summary. Are you familiar with it?
I know of it. I've seen the commercials. But as you know, I'm not a fan of most of the Tom Clancy games because they're too realistic. And I like to not be immersed in reality when I play video games. I like the pretend part of video games. So
I don't think you necessarily would love this. I don't think you'd hate it, but I don't think you'd love it. So the premise is, I don't know if this is rumor or not. I've not been able to confirm what I'm about to tell you, but I was told by somebody that when we experienced 9/11, that after that, the government reached out to science fiction writers and historical fiction writers, like Tom Clancy, and said, "Hey, please develop scenarios that terrorists could attack us by." And one of the results of that was this game. So in this game, you play an agent, and you are a hidden agent, and it's Directive 51, I want to say, of Homeland Security, and you get activated in times of crisis when the government has been decapitated and the government's not functioning. So what's really neat is that you're not just paramilitary. So a lot of the agents in this game are firefighters, paramedics, yes, ex-army people, nurses, not just army guys, I guess is what I'm saying. And what happens is that a strain of what's it called? Smallpox is created and is put on dollar bills. And those dollar bills are disseminated out on Black Friday. And that causes massive illness within New York City. And there's a first wave of agents that are popped in, and they're all gone. They're completely wiped out. You don't know what happens. And you're the second wave of agents. And so they show this little cutscene where you get activated, your little watch glows, get activated,
right.
And you drop into Manhattan, and there you are. So the city has already gone through, you can't quite tell, but it's already in complete disarray. Buildings are knocked out of commission, newspapers fly all around, and that's how you start the game. So I found the single player missions of these games really, really fun and compelling. Like I wanted to know what happened. And
now,
so you're discovering.
How long is the single player part? Is it a really long game? Is it about 10 hours?
No.
Most of these games are about 10 hours, it seems like, the target length. Like Gears of War is about 10 hours. Call of Duty is about 10 hours. The single player part.
It's funny you should ask that. I was going to say 30, but not based on real hours. Like that's what it felt like to me. Like sittings, maybe 30 different sittings of playing. Maybe no, I guess it'd be 30 hours, like maybe an hour at a pop. But I'm very slow. I'm slow. I don't beeline through the stories. I mill around. I take little side quests.
So you play the game more than just the story, though, right? So what's compelling about the multiplayer that keeps you engaged?
Well, that's what's interesting, Russ, is there's not really any multiplayer. Even though it's an MMO, when I'm in the world completely by myself. Everybody is PvE, player versus environment. It's all players? NPCs.
So do you see other players ever?
Nope.
So why do you think it's an MMO then? What makes it MMO like?
It is an MMO because when you're getting loot drops. So when you're killing your NPCs, they drop loot and they drop armor, and the armor's really neat. You get these bags.
So it's like an RPG, but there's no. Well, other players aren't you're not online playing it, are you? Or are you?
Well, there are. I haven't gotten to that yet,
okay.
But not in the way that you would think. Like I'm not running down the street and I see 12 other people. Right. It's not like that. So I'm all by myself, which I actually liked. Mm-hmm. Where the PvP part of the game or the other players come in the base game is there's this area called the Dark Zone. And that area has no control over it. So the areas that you play PvE in, which is player versus environment, the NPCs are called the JTF, the Joint Task Force. That's your police, military, and they're your sort of police force. Mm-hmm. And again, you're like a special agent. So, and you have control over them. Like Directive 51 from Homeland Security gives you control over the JTF. So you outrank them, so to speak. And they so there's this area of the Dark Zone where there's no JTF. It's just totally free-for-all battle zone, and it's red on your map. When you go in there, that's where you can be either PvE still and fight kind of batter NPCs, but what can happen is in certain areas, other players can shoot you and like grab your stuff and stuff like that. But I played the whole, and that's where you see other players running around. I played the whole game never going to the dark zone once. You don't have to go in the dark zone at all.
Right.
And what it is you're the other area where there's other players is there are these buildings and areas during your story missions. Like there's one where they found the person who created the virus, and you go to his apartment and try to find the actual formula. And that's, if you would, like taking down a boss. So you walk up to the screen and it says, you can do this, or you can press X and you can find other agents. And when you're at level going through the story, you can't take it down yourself. So I would either join up with random people, or most of the time, like if I would see Andy was on, I'd be like, hey, Andy, I need you to help me clear out the apartment. He's like, okay. And he would join, and then we would clear out the apartment.
Got it. Now, have you played through the main story multiple times? Is it that good?
No, that's what's interesting. I'm almost about to do it again. I want to create a female character. I created a male character this time, and I want to create a female character. I'm at level. I've been max level for forever, and they've been feeding the game a lot, which I like. So now that I'm max level, they've created 2 different expansions. One's just a whole other unlock of the map per normal expansions, but the other one is this mini survival game. I'll save that for a minute. But if I'm running around the world, what they've done is they have dailies. That makes it just like an MMO. They have weeklies, just like an MMO. They have crafting, just like an MMO. And I just have fun, kind of like you were saying earlier about Diablo. I just have fun playing that, like that apartment building thing now. I can now do that at max level. So I crank up the highest difficulty, and I can pretty much run through no problem.
All right.
And it's just fun. I just replay that little piece of the story, and I get a loot drop, and like I haven't gotten any new gear in a while. Like I'm ready for another expansion. I'm at max gear level, and I'm at max character level.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about that because I think one of the things I'm noticing is I'm really digging games with story more than, if you remember, like when Gears of War first came out way back when you and I got into it, it was like, hey, let's just hang out and LAN party and play multiplayer over and over again, right? But
yes,
what I'm into now is I really like the story of these games, and I think, I don't know if it's the aging population or if there's a paradigm shift, but for a while, there was a time originally when every game was single player and you added a little multiplayer. And then it evolved to like every game was multiplayer and there might be some single player or none. And now it seems like all these franchises that were multiplayer only for a long time or predominantly are starting to add single player. So I'm thinking like Battlefield 1, right, has a single player story. Call of Duty, the latest Call of Duty had a really, really awesome single player story.
Is that the futuristic one?
Yeah, the sci-fi one. And Star Wars Battlefront 2 just got announced, and they're going to have a single-player story in that. And I'm really and the Gears of War, of course, has always had a story, but I'm more interested in the story side than, which had co-op also, by the way. I'm more interested in the story side than the multiplayer. So for me, and it sounds like this new Division is, you like it because it's really got a compelling story, but also you can play with your friends. But it's essentially a single-player story game. It's essentially
a single-player MMO, shooter MMO.
Which is cool.
It has all the bells and whistles for me. It's third-person shooter. And it's it's the multi-bullet Tom Clancy. So you don't take 1 bullet and you die. You don't take 3 bullets and you die. Like they're unloading machine guns on me and I'm not dead. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. But the people that knock the game, that hate the game, they're like, I'm just a bullet shield. I'm like, yep, that's what I like about it.
There you go.
So just super good. I've never done, and I've done so much. Like I've almost unlocked every single achievable thing.
You've gotten all the achievements? Because that's like, those are super.
I'm about to. About to get. I don't know if I'm going to get all the achievements. I'm going to get this is part of the drops.
Yeah. Some
of the things you can find are these little file folders of the missing Division agents. I found like 52 of those file folders, and you can read them. The other thing is they leave cell phones behind. Mm-hmm. And so you'll see this little cell phone, it'll go bleep, 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 and you go pick it up. And it's a random person on the phone describing some phase of what's happened. So for example, you might get a phone that's like this, and it's kind of creepy in a way. It'll be like, Mom? Yeah, hi, it's Sue. No, I can't get out of the city. I don't really know what's going on, but they've barricaded us in. Okay, Mom, don't worry. I'll call you later. Mm-hmm. That's obviously really early before the pandemic broke out too bad. And then there's other phones you pick up and it's a nurse being like, we're out of beds. I don't know what we're going to do. And it's just, it's really eerie. It tells the story through those phones. I've always liked that way back in the System Shock days or the what's the Biosphere ones that I played all the way through. Bioshock. Yeah, they leave those little diaries, if you would, verbal diaries.
Right, yes.
So I'm about to do all of those. And there's about 6 other collectibles, which I won't bore you with. Oh, the other thing it has, which I'm always a fan of, it has cosmetic gear.
Oh, so right, yeah.
You can totally customize your character. You have scarves, hats. Everybody looks different in the game.
Yeah, my daughters love that stuff too. So if you can customize your characters, that's always a win for these kinds of games.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of noticing that I've never played a game on Xbox as much as this. Not Batman, not BioShock, nothing.
Yeah.
So it's a win. I like it, and that's my story.
All right, cool. So that's awesome. So do you find yourself? You mentioned you playing this on Xbox more. Has your gameplay changed? PC versus Xbox versus mobile? Are you finding yourself? How do you spend your time gaming now? Do you gravitate towards one or the other?
It's interesting you should say that. 2 things I've noticed I've increased my game time is, I don't know if you recall, but a long time ago I started to, I needed more hours in my day, and so I started to get up early. And I would get up around 5:30. I've kind of fallen off the wagon in the new year. I get up at 6. But I used to get out of bed like 7 or 8 or 9 on a weekend or something. I've always enjoyed sleeping in. So now I try to get up around 5:30. And the reward for getting myself up and out of bed was, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play a video game. I'm just going to roll out of bed, make my coffee, and I'm going to play a video game. That's when I completed most of Tom Clancy, because I'm playing video games at 5:30 in the morning. And then I found what would happen is it'd get to be 6:30. And I'm like, oh, actually, I'm kind of awake. You know what? I'm going to bang out an hour worth of work. And I've done all that even before my daughter's gotten on the bus.
Right.
So, or sometimes I play right up till 7 when I have to stop and then get her ready to get on the bus kind of thing. So I just found these new hours in my day. I'm about 50-50. Before playing Tom Clancy really hard, I was playing the PC. I was playing a lot of Steam games. There was a new, I'm drawing a blank. It's like Civ, but it's not Civ. And it was a space exploration game. I played tons of hours on that. I'm suddenly drawing a blank. So, yeah, I would say it's about 50-50. No mobile games at all. None.
All right. Yeah, I find... go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that I'm kind of wishing I did have a mobile game. I like some of the recommendations you made. I kind of need filler for like when I'm standing around, not much to do, got 15 minutes. I'm going to need one of those types of mobile games.
So I find that I'm doing this. Last Flight was the first time I played it. I felt I got sucked into a compelling, Broken Age really was a compelling
Broken Age.
story
I got to write
game
that down
on my phone. And what I found was I have this pair of noise canceling headphones I wear in the plane because it really helps you sort of relax. And so now that I'm doing more and more traveling, I have those. And so since I have these headphones on my head, I'm like, oh, I might listen to something nice. And so I found myself. Normally on mobile gaming, I used to get away from any game that required sound to have a good experience because normally my mobile gaming operation is I'm in line at the grocery store or I'm waiting for a table at a restaurant or I'm at a movie theater waiting for the movie to start. And so those places you don't have your earbuds ready. You don't want to waste time getting those out. You can't have any audio.
Yes,
so I generally play games that don't need audio or audio is not really, it's like old 16-bit or 8-bit audio. But since I was sitting here with these headphones on a plane on a 4-hour flight, I'm like, well, I'll try out a story-based game. And so I tried this out, and I was amazed how quickly I lost myself in the game, just like I used to lose myself in the adventure games back on the PC back in the day. So that really got me into it. And again, what's great about that is you have really long battery life in your phone typically, and most planes now also have cell phone charges in them. So you have no problem running out of battery, and so for a really long flight, it was really good. So I'm starting to look for more of those. My daughter's also got me into the text adventures on your phone now. These are a thing too, which is surprising too because I was really enjoying that as well. And that was kind of flashing me back to like the old Infocom Zork days. I'm like, wow, it's all back again, but old is new. So that was kind of cool also. But I really like I hope more of the sort of click adventure, games become predominant on the phone because they're a great, they're not really as bite-sized because I get too into them. Like I don't like them for like, a 10-minute playthrough and stop because you're too into the story. But it's great on a plane or sitting in an airport or something with time to kill. That was good. So I'm liking that. But that's what I play on my phone. For my PC now, I play StarCraft still. And there's a couple of
you
games
do?
I play on that. Oh yeah, my daughters and I play StarCraft all the time. We love StarCraft. So we do that, and but I don't. But I really still love sitting down in front of a big TV with either really good headphones or the stereo in the living room cranked up, the surround sound cranked up, and nothing beats a good AAA, awesome cinematic console game. And I still like, and I've been blasting through those this past, 6 to 8 months. I went through Battlefield because I'm loving all these little, I don't mind a game that's like 10 to 15 hours in story. Because for me, that's still a good value at $60 when you compare like a movie, or
Yep.
even a TV series. Like you can drop $30 on a TV series, on demand or whatever. So I like that I can get this game and I get 10 to 15 hours of gameplay and then a little bit of multiplayer as well. So I usually get 20 hours of these things. But I love the story in Battlefield 1. That was just awesome. Rafe, did you play the single player story in Battlefield 1?
No, and it's interesting as I'm looking at your list between Battlefield 1, Gears of War, and Witcher, because I'm sort of getting towards a little bored of the repeatedness of. I need another expansion for the Division to come out. I'm at max level, max gear. I've played the mission so many times. I'm like, okay,
Rafe,
getting a
since you're
little
a
bored
historical
here.
gamer, I think you would love Battlefield 1. So Battlefield 1 takes place in World War I. And what they did for the story in this. And the main game is, it's still the classic Battlefield game where you're running around on these giant maps and fighting, other players.
Yeah.
But the multiplayer is pretty cool because they've got joined missions now. So it'll be like the Germans are trying to. So you're actually going to play, like you have to blocks out like 45 minutes for a multiplayer game. And you jump in, and the first mission is like you got to push to the ammo depot. So you do the mission to get to the ammo depot. If you fail, like you get pushed back. If you succeed, you move on to the next level. If you fail also, you get a number of tries to succeed as the attackers, for example. And if you fail the first time, it costs you one of your team's lives, if you will. But then like a giant support Zeppelin flies in and helps you out or whatever. It's different at every level. And then if you get to that, you get to the next mission. And basically what you're trying to do is get through all three sort of scenarios before running out of tries, essentially, for your team, which is pretty cool. But then
I'm leaning towards Witcher.
Well, I'll come to Witcher in a second. But
Okay.
the other part about Battlefield that I think you'll like is actually the single-player mode. So what they did was they took actual stories from World War I, right? And you play out different characters. So in one scenario, you're riding with Lawrence of Arabia. And then in another scenario, you're one of the first tanker crews in the old World War I tanks. And then in another scenario, you're a biplane pilot. And you'll have like 5 or 6 missions that tell that story. They're like little mini-series. And then you go to the different thing. And you get to appreciate and understand what's going on in different elements of different theaters of World War I. It's really cool. So I thought that was really, really, really neat. The Witcher is my absolute favorite RPG of all time. But I should warn you that The Witcher is like a 120-hour length game. So, but it is awesome. If you want a good RPG, get The Witcher.
It's single-player RPG, right?
Yes, it's not an MMO. It's a single-player
No,
RPG
I know.
experience.
I don't like the multiplayer RPGs.
You cannot
decided.
customize Geralt as the main character. You can't really customize him, although as he levels up, you can choose which powers he gets. But the premise of the game is you are a Witcher. You are a hero of, well, the Witchers are like, so there was an event in the past which let magic and monsters into the universe, okay? And Witchers then show up. These are sort of like hybrid humans of some kind that can that fight the monsters, and they take them on. But they're not noble; they're mercenaries. So they'll walk up, Witcher, my daughter was taken by that griffin and flown to her nest. How much you going to pay me? Right? It's like how much that fee for taking on a griffin is normally 100 gold. You got 100 gold, lady, or I'm going to walk. Right?
I like games on rails. So is it more on rails or way open? You can do whatever the heck you want.
I would say it is open. But there is a very clear story that you can follow without doing any of the openness. In other words, it doesn't get to the point you have to go do open stuff to level up to be able to do the main story. You could stick with the main story and be fine. But it's not as open as Skyrim. But
good.
And the story is there are consequences, right? So and they're very compelling.
I remember you telling me.
Like a really good story. Like really great. You're going to like it because even though even side quests have main story elements to them that are just as compelling as the main story. So you never feel like, it's not like, I'm going to go farm this gold for an hour to level up, but it's not part of the main story, so there's no story there. It's like you get in this whole side thing, and all of a sudden there's this super emotional thing with the cutscenes and everything, and it was just a side quest. So like you don't feel like it doesn't feel like a side quest. It feels like you just did some cool story element, you know.
Okay.
Really good. And what's really interesting about it is I haven't played the latest expansion. So Blood and Wine came out in the fall, and it literally won Best RPG of the Year last year as an expansion.
Huh,
I mean,
wow.
Because Witcher came out the year before. It wasn't even a 2016 release. So that's how good the writing in this is. That's how good the storytelling is. I mean, The Witcher 3, if you haven't played The Witcher 3, I cannot emphasize enough how good an RPG that is. There has never been a better storytelling experience in an RPG world, I don't think, than The Witcher.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'm in the mood to invest time into another experience, I guess.
And I did the same thing. I get up early in the morning and I play, The Witcher for a couple hours every day, and it would just be one of those things, and the story just keeps going. And the missions are bite-sized enough where you can do that and get out, right? So
okay,
I really like that. And you can play Geralt with different play styles. So he's got spells, but he's also good in combat, and so you can choose, maybe you're more of a fire guy. Maybe you're more of a charming the person guy and taking control of the enemy's mind. Maybe you're not a magic dude at all, and you're putting all your energy into cool, sword play. So you can still there's still that RPG element. And you wear different armor, so that changes his look and everything else. But essentially, you can't customize Geralt. He's Geralt.
I was maybe also thinking before doing Witcher, because I know it's a big investment, was maybe knocking out Gears of War.
Yeah, so I love the latest Gears of War. It was
looked cool.
Great storytelling and really cool finale, and it brings forward the story more with Marcus even. I really liked it a lot, but I'm a Gear. I mean, now Gears is nostalgia for me because it was the game that sort of you and I, every Xbox generation, we would just get it and play it. So
yeah,
but I like that a lot, and I also think Call of Duty, the sci-fi Call of Duty, Raef, was really.
I was
good.
intrigued by that too when you talked about it.
Yeah, well, what I like about it is I've always liked Wing Commander, and I always dreamed, wouldn't it be cool? And I know you backed the Chris Roberts thing. Wouldn't it be cool if you could have a space combat simulator and then literally jump out of the fighter and then do ground combat?
Yeah.
And they've achieved that in this game. But with really compelling storytelling. And you really feel like you're on an aircraft carrier in space. You really feel like, remember that old TV show Space Above and Beyond? Did you ever see that show? It was out in the late 90s.
No,
it only had one season. But
it was a classic.
Yeah, classic, right. It feels, hey, Craig's there. It does.
I've been
feel
waiting for something to come up that I could give.
Yeah, it feels
to.
like Space Above and Beyond. It feels like Space
Guns,
Above
the big
and Beyond.
guns underneath hanging up.
Yeah, it's
all
awesome.
the directions. Yeah.
Take it on the chigs. Yeah.
Then it got lame.
Yeah, it
It started cool.
It started cool, and then it got weird. But the game is good, and the story's good. The visuals are amazing. Really, I like it, but I like sci-fi a lot. I think a lot of the Call of Duty folks are like, sci-fi, but Call of Duty is a sort of a realistic military shooter, but I don't like realistic military shooters, so this one got me into Call of Duty, and I really liked it.
Okay. Now, I really want to hear about the PS4 and Uncharted, because I almost went PS4 over Xbox One.
Yes, I know you did. So here's what happened. So my daughters, for Christmas, they've stopped sort of making lists and stuff. So
Right.
So anyway, this year Santa brought there was a game that they were both kind of mentioning, The Last Guardian, which is a PS4 exclusive. And I've always wanted a PS4 for Uncharted. Pretty much the only game on PS4 I've ever seen that I really want to play is Uncharted. And that's because one of my favorite games of all time is Tomb Raider. And I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan. So the idea of, the classic sort of archaeologist type adventurer going out there and raiding tombs and doing that sort of thing and climbing all over the place and all that kind of craziness with mystical, in a realistic world, but then with mystical elements kind of thing. I've always been drawn to that idea. So I've loved that kind of style. And I knew Uncharted was that, but I never could justify getting it. So anyway, so daughters wanted this. I'm like, okay. And so we got it. It came for Christmas. And then also, under the tree was Uncharted. There's an Uncharted Collector's Edition now, which is the original Uncharted came out on older PS4s, PS3 and PS2. So it's actually, I guess it was PS3, but it was like 2008 to 2013, I guess, were the first three Uncharteds. So pretty old now, right?
Right.
But they remastered them, So they'll run on the PS4. They did new textures and all, and new water effects and all those kind of things. And so we got that, and then Uncharted 4, which I haven't gotten to yet, also just came out for the PS4 specifically, right? That came out, I think, in this last fall. So I've been playing those, and man, Rafe, they are really good. And
that's what's made me want to get a PS4.
What's interesting about it is, I mean, it's just a single-player game. It's just a compelling story about Nathan Drake, who believes he's related to Francis Drake, the old explorer, and he's on these different adventures, very Indiana Jones, very Laura Croft-like.
Yeah.
I got to think the newer Tomb Raider, the newer one, the reboot, was inspired in many ways by Uncharted. A lot of the tricks they do in that game come from the early Uncharted. And what's really impressive about it, too, is I keep reminding myself it was made in 2008. The new textures look great. I mean, you can tell there's lower polygon count, you can tell, but it looks really good. And what's cool about it is they do some cool stuff, like there's never a loading screen. They really are focused on the cinematic experience. They're really focusing on making it feel like a movie. The voice acting's fantastic. The characters are fantastic. The story's really good. I'm in the third one now. I'm 90% done in the third game, and I'm telling you, every moment of the game keeps you immersed. There's some really cool scenes. They managed to figure out, how to have you, running and gunning. There's a pretty good cover system in the game, so you can hide behind cover. The combat feels right. There's a great hand-to-hand combat system in the game. Awesome climbing, just like Tomb Raider. You can get around everywhere. Great. There's some great vehicle levels where you're literally leaping from trains to cars to horseback riding, all kinds of crazy stuff.
That's what it seems like.
And it's really, really good. And I think having 3 of these games, and they're about 15 to 20 hours each, so you're getting 3 of those plus Uncharted 4. That many hours of gameplay almost makes it worth buying a PS4 just for that saga, I'd say. Especially if you got, one of the older PS4s that are now pretty affordable, right? So you get a $200 PS4.
Oh, yeah, good point.
You're looking at like a really cool adventure. There's other games on the PS4, but I haven't found another PS4 exclusive that I like as much. There is a new one coming out called, I think it's called New Horizons or something, or Horizon, I can't remember, where I think you probably see a commercial for the sort of the retro female hunter who's tackling like robot creatures. That looks pretty good. That's coming out later this month. That's the other exclusive. But Uncharted is almost worth the price of admission. There are some cool things too, Rafe, that the PS4 does pretty well. I would say the turn on time is faster. The restart, you can leave a game in the middle of it and come back.
Yeah.
And the Xbox remembers where you were. The Xbox sometimes does weird things when it happens. You got to restart the game. PS4 seems to be very solid about that. I never had that break.
Okay.
But all that said, there are other things about it that we don't like. Like, since the girls and I have grown up on Xbox controllers, we really don't like the PS4 controllers.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
That's probably more of a habit thing than anything else, but I just don't like, they don't feel as comfortable. And my hands do get more cramped, maybe it's because they're smaller. I don't know.
They're smaller.
Yeah, so that's part of it. And then the other thing about it is, I think the way they do their store and the video library, and there's some basic stuff the Xbox does a lot better. Like, and there are little things too. Like, you can take a screenshot in the Xbox and make it your background. You can't do that. There's like little things like that make the PS4 seem less mature than the Xbox. But the basics all work really, really well. Like turning it on, getting the game on, going, all that stuff works super, super fast. And the other game that's kind of fun on there is we got Gauntlet. So there's a version of Gauntlet that's only available on the PS4 that's pretty solid also. We were playing that too. So I don't know.
That's what made me originally think about it, was what you just described, is that I was more into the single player experience.
Yeah.
And remember like Alan Wake?
Yep.
Remember that game I liked?
But what I was hoping there'd be tons. So what I've done is, because of my achievements on the Xbox, I still default to wanting to play on the Xbox. So if
I have an achievement question for you too.
If a game's available on both, I'm going to play on the Xbox. So what I've found is I'm only getting PS4 games that are PS4 exclusives. And I thought when we got this, there'd be this whole back catalog of games I wanted to try. And like the girls, they had Ratchet and Clank. I thought the girls were going to love that. They're like, Last Guardian, they liked.
Ratchet and Clank's okay.
It didn't blow them, but Last Guardian wasn't as compelling as I'd hoped. They were like, Rose, I think I mentioned Rose loved the latest Final Fantasy, but that was on Xbox. I haven't seen, like, and Uncharted is the one game I would say, oh my God, it's almost worth PS4 just for those 4 games.
Yeah, I can't think of what they were, but I remember reading in that magazine there, that Xbox magazine that we get, or Game Informer, and going, "Oh, I like that game. Oh, PS4 only. Oh, I like that game. Oh, PS4 only."
Yeah,
but I'm glad I didn't, because Andy plays the Division with me, and we've had some unbelievable, super fun stories. So I'm glad I stick it. And I'd still just like the Xbox One for its ability to act as a media console.
Yeah, and I think the media part of the Xbox One's stronger than the media part on the PS4.
Yeah. I was super pumped. Did you know? So I don't have cable TV, and I really wanted to watch the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I didn't know this. On a whim, I'm at home. Lou, actually, I made sure Lou, because he loves football. I'm like, you got to go to your cousin's and watch the Super Bowl. And I got home late because it was the same weekend as Captain Con. So I was kind of pooped, and I Google it, and sure enough, Fox Go app streamed the Super Bowl.
Right, on your Xbox, right? Yeah.
Yep. Turned on the Xbox, downloaded the app, watched the whole thing streamed.
Yeah, right. So I think you almost don't need cable anymore. I really think you can, in fact, I just got a deal. I lowered my cable bill so I'm paying, I think 60 or $70 a month for internet, for cable, just to have internet. But I got it up to 200 meg per second down, which is pretty good. So I'm getting really pretty good speeds now. And for, I think between 60 and $70 a month. And I have to have basic cable because that's what they make you get.
Yeah.
But I never watch TV.
Oh. Why do you have, in order to get that price?
To get the internet. Yeah. You can't really, if you buy internet without cable, you pay more, which is weird.
You do.
You're better off.
I do.
You're better off just having the basic cable. Yeah.
What's so funny though, Russ, is that we don't pay for it. So like the person on the phone goes, but with basic cable, it's less. And I go, yep, for a period of months. And then all of a sudden my bill will jump to $200.
Yes.
And I don't want to do that. And they're like, but it's less. I'm like, yep, not doing it.
Well, I call them back. So the trick to cable is you call them back every 12 months. So what you do is, here's what I did. Like I wanted to get this 200 meg per second thing. So I upgraded my Wi-Fi network. This is another whole topic we can talk about. So I upgraded my whole Wi-Fi network to the...
This is how they go though, Craig.
This is how it goes.
This is what
So have you heard about mesh networks, Rafe?
No, what's that?
So the idea behind a mesh network, especially if you have a larger home, but even if you have a home with a lot of walls and other things. So traditional Wi-Fi routers are a single Wi-Fi point in your house. And what you want to, the only way to expand that is you either get Wi-Fi boosters, which is a different technology and is not reliable, or you put up multiple Wi-Fi networks in your home with different network names. And that works, except when you move from one part of your house to your other part of your house, you got to now tell your device to switch Wi-Fi networks, which is a pain. So what the mesh networks do is they are, from your point of view, it's basically one network, and you set up one device. Then you just plug in other devices in your home, and they automatically connect to that network and boost the signal from wherever they are. And the interesting thing is they do not need to be plugged in to a Wi-Fi connection or wired internet connection. They connect to another one of these things and they boost it. And then if you have another one, so I have 3 in my home now, one up in the upper right-hand corner of my house, one down in the basement, and one up in the upper left-hand corner of the house. I have amazing signal strength now. And what I found was when I got this all set up, I realized that I had a Wi-Fi network now that was faster than 20 meg per second. Because before, in my old system, I could never beat 18 meg per second. And all of a sudden on this one, I could go anywhere in the house and I was hitting 20 meg per second. It was pegging at 20. I'm like, 20? Why is it picking 20? Well, I went to my cable, then I went to my wired connection and also saw it was 20. I said, wait a minute, I think the cable company's throttling me. And then I looked, and sure enough, Comcast had changed the rules so that the basic cable maxed out at 20, or maybe it was 24, maxed out at a number. And then it said, but if you're willing to pay more, you can go up to 100 meg per second, which would be 5 times faster than what I have now, or you can go up to 200 meg per second, which would be 10 times faster than I have now. I'm like, well, that sounds awesome. So what did that cost? So I called the cable company, and they're like, well, actually, so if you want to go to 200 meg per second, that'll be $5 less a month than you're paying now. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, it should be cheaper. You're just on a legacy plan that makes it more expensive. I'm like, why? Why did you make me call? Why don't you just turn my internet up? Why would you make me call you? She goes, well, because in 2 years, it's going to go up to this amount of money. I said, yeah, but can I call you in a year? She goes, oh, yeah, you call in a year, and there's another plan. We move over to that. I'm like, well, that seems like a thing. So, because, worst case scenario, 2 years from now, I go back down to slower speed so I did that. So I ended up paying $5 less a month, and now I am in 10 times faster internet, and now it takes full advantage of my new mesh network. So now I'm like, before what would happen was if you were watching a show if two people were watching two different shows in two different rooms, what would happen was you'd get those little breakups once in a while because basically two shows streaming at once in the house would kind of max out the 20 meg per second. But now everybody can be in different rooms watching HD shows streaming, and you can't even feel it. It's awesome.
So how do I know if I'm being throttled?
What you do is, what I like is there's a website and an app. The website I use is speedtest.net. Don't do it now because you're on recording over Skype and you'll throttle. But what speedtest.net does is it'll tell you what your download speed is. And there's also a speed test app on your phone that does the same thing. And so what you want to do is run it on your phone, and that'll show you your Wi-Fi speed. And run it on your PC, and that'll show you your PC's, assuming your PC's plugged into the router directly, that'll show you your wired speed.
It is, yes.
And what you will see is you'll see what your maximum download speed is. And try different times a day, things like that. But that'll show you if you're being throttled or not. And then you can, or if you're even hitting, what you might see is that your wired PC is hitting some number and your Wi-Fi is not hitting it. What's also cool about the app on your phone is you can walk around different spots of your house and try it, because even if you're seeing max Wi-Fi bars on your phone, even if your phone showing like maximum, being too far from the router could mean you get worse performance, even though it's getting a strong signal. It's sort of a nuance to
Wi-Fi. The mesh network helps with that.
Yes, the mesh network really helps with that. It extends your network really far and gives you a really strong, good signal regardless of where you are in your house.
Okay.
If you want to really get fancy, you can wire each of your mesh receivers as well, because there is, for those super nerds out there like me, if you really get into how this mesh thing works, there was a small amount of degradation happening between the two mesh devices keeping in sync with each other because they're using a bit of bandwidth there. But
Makes
generally
sense.
speaking, you won't notice that because you get such better performance that small amount of bandwidth. But if you want to be hardcore, you could wire them all.
Why do a mesh network over an extender, a Wi-Fi extender?
The extender is a slightly different technology, and they generally don't work as well because what they're really doing. I was
going to say, because I just plugged mine in and it worked one time and I didn't.
Well,
use
what
it,
they're doing,
what
that's doing is it's repeating it, whereas these devices are actually you're connecting and channeling to them. So if you do decide to hardwire those are all going to be faster, but also the way they do it is a little better too, without getting too technical. But you're better off. The mesh networks definitely work. They're definitely a thing, and they work. They are a bit pricey. So because you're generally paying for 3 of them, and you're looking at between $100 and $300 depending on how many of these devices you want to get. So it's a definitely
so
more.
I can't just add another mesh thing to my current modem or router.
If you had, some of them can. So Google On Hub will do that. So Google can do it. Eero is the one I happen to be using, and there's one other one that begins with the L. I'm forgetting now, but they also are one of those. So. But it is about the same price or a little bit cheaper than a really high-end wireless router, right? If you went and bought like the best Linksys router or the best Netgear router, you'd be paying $200 to $300. So you're in the same ballpark as like the best one of those.
I just have like a $100 Buffalo.
Yeah,
router.
And that's probably. But before you spend any money, try the speed test thing, both on your phone around your house. Go to different rooms in your house, run it, and then also try it on your PC, which is wired. And the PC will show you what you're throttled at pretty much. When you do it, though, make sure no one else is doing much on the internet because that will affect how fast speed tests can run. So if someone's watching a big movie or downloading a huge file, like what I was finding was if I had Dropbox resync, like when we record the D6G, right, my Dropbox is turned off and to maximize bandwidth. After we record the D6G, I turn Dropbox back on so that everything we just recorded, 2 hours of audio, which is at highest quality, and it's probably like, 5 meg, gets uploaded to, or 5 gig, gets uploaded to our Dropbox. What I was noticing was I could literally time the moment that I turned it back on, and then Nicole upstairs would yell at me. Because what would happen was I'd turn it on, and it would throttle all the internet in the house, and all of a sudden whatever video she was watching would grind to a halt, or any website she was working on or any article she was writing online would stop.
You know what that reminds me of? It's like the modern day version of you go to wash the dishes and your spouse is like, hey, because the shower just went to a stream.
Right, you flush the toilet and all of a sudden the hot water in the shower goes on. So what I've noticed since I made this change was I can do that now and no one even notices. right? I can be doing anything. I can play games. I can be uploading to Dropbox. I can be downloading some loose Steam game that's like 20 gig. And it's coming down super fast. What's also awesome now is I can download, a 40 gig game on Xbox now and buy it. And that thing downloads in like 2 hours as opposed to all night, which is awesome. So like that stuff now is like, oh, that's great. So for me, it's worth it. It's also worth it for the collab because now my kids are always online. They're old enough now where they're doing stuff all the time. Nicole's always online for her job.
I'm running into that.
I'm online, either watching a show, gaming, or doing work. So
I'm convinced it crashes my router every now and again.
Well, that was the other thing. I was constantly rebooting. And what's good about the newer routers is they're all self-healing. So they install the latest stuff. They're always upgrading. And I find Eero does a pretty good job with that. So I've had Eero now for, when did I do this? December. So it's been a little over 2 months now. And I'm really pleased with the results. But your mileage may vary. You may have a very open home. It's not big enough to need that or whatever. But I'm really liking it.
What does this mean? I just did it on my phone.
Yeah.
It says my download is 26.61 Mbps.
Right. So it's megabits per second. That's good. That's a good number. And your upload's going to be lower, but what was your upload?
6.36.
Yeah. So so usually upload's much lower because that's how they throttle it. But upload's not as important, right? So
yeah, I'm not uploading. I don't need to
unless you're doing a lot of data transfers and stuff, upload's less important. What you're looking for if you're video streaming or even playing games, it's really the download stuff. So you want that number. Well, bidirectional models for games somewhat, but even download is really more important. So what you want is 26 is good. So and is that your computer or your phone?
Phone.
So 26 is good. But again, I'm at like 200. So just
now you're at 200.
Yes.
Wow.
So I'm not quite 10 times your number right now. So try it on your computer later. Try it on your phone around the house. Also see if that 26 holds everywhere in the house. What you may find is like near the edge of your house, maybe in one of your kids' rooms or in your bedroom or other places.
Yeah, my bedroom. It's not going to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now again, if you don't care about your bedroom, fine. But you'll find.
No, I do. There's times when I'm like, that's part of what's slowing me down with my mobile gaming. To get back to the gaming thing is sometimes I'm like, I'm not quite ready to go to sleep. I don't want to read, like, let's say Maurice is asleep. I don't want to have a reading light on. Right. So I'd like to play some sort of game, but my Wi-Fi sucks, so I don't do it.
Well, my favorite thing about the mesh thing, because I was never getting, the reason I never did this cable thing before was, like, I would get 20 meg per second down on my computer, but on my Wi-Fi network, I'd be getting 10, 11, or 12. So there was no reason to go upgrade my internet connection from the cable company super high, because my Wi-Fi couldn't handle anything greater than 10. Right. So why would you bother? So I was like, I don't care, But now what I found is that when I got this mesh network, Nicole's like, man, you spent all that money in the mesh network. You're still only getting 20. I'm like, I know, this is wrong. And then I realized, oh, crap, it's a cable company. So what I like about it, though, is now I used to prefer to have wired connections everywhere, which is a pain because you got to.
It's such a pain.
Such a pain. And now wireless is actually what I also found, Rafe, this is funny too. I took one of my Eero routers and I plugged it into, I wanted to plug them all in to maximize it, right? And I plugged them into one of my little hubs. And I realized my hub was a 50 megabit per second hub, which I never would have noticed before, but all of a sudden that one Eero was only getting 50 down. I'm like, why is, because I'm actually, the wires are actually more limited than the wireless because I haven't gone through and upgraded all my tech in the house to be, 200 meg per second. So like, what was really cool about that is now my wireless network is really solid and it's a great way to do it. Now I'm still going to eventually upgrade on my wires and everything, but right now it's great because I have really good coverage and I'm rocking 200 meg per second down, which is quite frankly as fast as the internet goes right now without paying. You can get a gig down from the cable companies, but then you're dropping then it gets really expensive. Like you're paying $200 a month.
Silly money.
Yeah, and I don't need that. I mean, right now everything works, so it's fine.
So this is kind of a same topic, but a tangent. What is this? Is there like some sort of Google device now where we can talk to it and it turns our lights on and off or something?
Yeah,
or
so that's a tangent.
An Amazon device.
Yes.
Or
Google
what
Home.
is that?
Google Home. Where, Craig? Very
Ta-da!
good.
I'm still here, baby.
So, Rafe, you have ventured into the Internet of Things, or as we call it, the IoT devices. So, Internet of Things basically means that people are decided that it would be great if everything was on the internet. Other people have decided that's probably not a very good idea, but in any case, this is where
I don't
the
know
world
that's
is
such
going.
a good idea.
So,
Including all the people whose Google Homes just ordered them dollhouses.
Right. Hey, right. Hey, Siri, order me a phone. Or, hey, Alexa, buy a car. But sorry, folks. But basically what happens is, so there's this,
I don't even know what that reference is. What the hell are you talking about?
So there are different devices now. So a couple things. One is there are devices now from, it's like Cortana on the computer or Siri on your phone. They've now taken Amazon actually got first to market on this. They came out with something called Alexa, which is basically, you might have seen it advertised by Alec Baldwin on the Super Bowl last year. It's essentially a cylinder, a black cylinder.
I'm looking at it right now.
About the size of a
popping up when I go to Amazon.
About the size of a thermos, and you plug this thing into your home, and all it is a microphone and a speaker. And it's got full voice recognition, very much like Siri. You can ask it questions, and it will respond to you. So you can say things like, and the name of it is Alexa. I'm not going to keep saying it. I'm going to pretend that Alexa is named Bob. So you can say, "Hey Bob, play Pandora or play Britney Spears or whatever," and Alexa will and your Amazon device will start playing that music. Or you can say, "Hey, I'm out of toilet paper. Hey Bob, order me toilet paper," and it will, through your Amazon account, it'll order the toilet paper and come to you. You can also, if you have Internet of Things in your home, like smart light bulbs or a smart thermostat, it then integrates to those. So you can say, "Hey Bob, set the temperature of my house to 70 degrees," or "Hey Bob, set the lighting to dim in the living room," or "Hey Bob, if you have internet-based locks on your doors, hey Bob, lock the doors. Hey Bob, close the garage," right? And all that stuff can happen. And Google has one now too. Yes.
Hold the phone.
Yes.
So since Audible is connected to Amazon and I buy one of the Amazon thingies, could I say like, "Hey, play Audible Terry Pratchett"?
Yes. Leo Laporte talks about this all the time in his show. So anything, yes, you can have Alexa start reading an audiobook to you. Your audiobook just starts playing. And it does all that stuff too as well. Yeah. So pretty much anything Amazon has access to can work.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's like HAL
Star
9000.
Trek gets here every day, closer every day.
Well, it's either Star Trek or HAL 9000, right? But it's something there.
Or Skynet.
Or Skynet, right.
Or Skynet.
And Google has a very similar thing in Google Home, which is the same thing. It's basically a hockey puck, and you talk to it, and Google's voice assistant does all the same things that Amazon does. The big difference, though, is that Amazon's is tied into the Amazon ecosystem, so you can pretty much order anything you want. And it does all the same. It does many of the same things Siri does. You can say, "Hey, Bob, talk like a pirate, tell me a joke." I mean, all those tricks work. Yeah.
Tell you how I need to get this right now. So this is just the stupidest thing, but like I'm beginning to order more food type of items on Amazon.
Yes.
So for example, we like the low sugared Concord grape jelly. We just like it.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, the supermarket where we get most of our goods doesn't have that particular jelly. So I'm like, God dang it, I got to remember to like go to Target or wherever I can't even remember where to find it. And I keep saying to myself, I got to order that on Amazon. And then I don't, just because you know how the day goes.
Right.
So I wish I could be standing near the fridge and go order the Smucker's low grape jelly.
Well, I have a similar thing. Like I'm constantly, so my daughters both have pets. We have a pet turtle and a pet gerbil. And because these are pets owned by the children, I, of course, take care of them, right? So every week I go in and I clean the turtle tank, and I clean the gerbil tank, and I do all that stuff. And there's a bunch of stuff that you need for these things that, quite frankly, the local pet stores are super expensive, don't always have them in stock, like food or whatever. So I order them all through Amazon, and I keep my phone nearby. And here's a great example, right? It's an edge case, but I think this kind of stuff happens more than you think. So my phone's nearby, but my hands and arms are like knee deep now in turtle poop water. So I don't want to touch it. So I would love to be able to say, "Hey, Bob, reorder, water cleaner," or "Hey, Bob, reorder, pH balance," or "Hey, Bob, reorder calcium stuff." And it would all work. And I have an Amazon account, and I order these things through Amazon, so I can do all that stuff. So to me, that would be pretty handy. I don't have it because I don't know, but I don't really want my house listening to me all the time. Now, I do use some of these sorts of things. Like I do actually I do say "Hey Cortana" all the time to my Connect. So I do use, like we have pizza night every Monday. And every Monday
that's a closed system.
Yeah, and every Monday we watch a show. And we're watching a show and all of our hands are covered in pizza and someone's got to pause the show. We do say like "Hey Cortana, pause. Hey Cortana, play."
Oh, now I want pizza.
That stuff, I know, right? That stuff all works. But I don't, for some reason, the Amazon one, it's like the Google one. Like Microsoft somehow has become the smaller company. I don't mind them knowing stuff about me. I really get concerned about the more information that Amazon and Google know about me. I don't know why. Maybe I'm paranoid, but I'm getting a little bit concerned about that. Which ties into Craig's point about the hunted.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But this is an interesting topic, too, because I think Microsoft, at least to me, has earned my trust. So they were back, as you know, from the Xerox days, and we know Bill Gates, and he's earned my trust. I don't feel like my Xbox is listening to me right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not so sure with Amazon and Google.
Yeah. Well, there's a big
They
article
could
that's
be
come out. Your Vizio television might be listening to. So they just, like, a couple things have happened like that. And one of the things about the Internet of Things in particular that is a problem is what's turned out is that a lot of these people that are putting internet connectivity in the devices aren't doing a good job on security, right? So they...
What a shocker.
Yeah, right. So some stuff like routers and stuff are pretty good, except everybody leaves a default password on there. First problem. But there's other things they are too. So it makes just your home more hackable, right? And I don't know. Like I feel like I don't know. Maybe this is just me being paranoid. But for those two, I don't know that I would use them quite enough. But I do know. Like I think a lot of our gamer friends, I think, have them. Michelle and Brian have one. Alexa. I think a lot of people have them. So and the people that have them love them. And you might like, and they're pretty affordable. It's under $100, so it's not too hard to try one out.
Well, according to this, the Amazon Echo is $180.
Oh, I thought it was cheaper than that.
But the all new Echo Dot, I don't know what that is $50.
Oh, so the Echo Dot, I think, listens to you, but doesn't have the speaker and everything in it.
Oh,
so the Echo.
Oh, so you can order dog food, but it's not going to play an audiobook back at you.
I think that's right. Double check that, but I think that's what that is.
All right. And the Echo Dot looks like a hockey puck.
Yeah, and the Alexa's taller, but it's a speaker, and it's a pretty good speaker, so you can have a pretty good audio experience on that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of that time that Google turned the speakers on, the microphones on.
Like
right?
I have Sonos, right? So I have Sonos in my house. I love Sonos, and it would talk to Sonos, right? So you could say, hey Bob, play Pandora, play Awesome Mix Volume 1, and it would play it, and it would play it on either if you had the puck, that'd be okay because it would play it on your Sonos, which is what you want anyway. Because Sonos is a really good speaker.
Is it doing that through Bluetooth connectivity?
Yeah, well, it connects out to the internet actually, so it goes all the way through. Yep.
Oh, Sonos is connected to the internet as well?
Yeah, Sonos is always on the internet. Because how do you think you stream Pandora on Sonos?
I don't know. Actually,
Rafe.
I didn't realize the Sonos.
How do you think?
My only experience with Sonos is with the iPod. So the Yoga Studio has Sonos.
Yeah, well, you could do it that way. You could stream from your phone to. So what's cool about how Sonos works? We're totally off gaming now, but that's okay. What's cool about Sonos is
I think you've been off gaming for a while.
Most Bluetooth streaming, right? The phone or device actually plays the audio and streams the audio in real time from your phone to the speaker, right? So if you leave the room or you power your phone down or whatever, the music will stop because your phone is literally. It's like there's a virtual wire running from your phone.
Yeah, we use it with aux cables actually.
Right. Now, what Sonos does is you actually, with the app on your phone, you actually give Sonos the information about your Pandora account and your all your other music accounts.
I use
Spotify account, anything else. And what you're doing on your phone then is you are telling Sonos, hey, use my Pandora account, stream this station. And from that point on, Sonos is actually talking to Pandora and streaming over your Wi-Fi connection. And your phone could be turned off, could be put in airplane mode, could walk a mile from the building, and it would still work. So what I like about that is then other people in your house who have the device can also change what's happening there too. So if your wife starts streaming the music and you need to stop it, you can do it from your phone, that kind of thing. So Sonos is a lot more powerful that way, but it does require Sonos be online. Which means it's an Internet of Things, which means your speakers are now theoretically hackable.
Right.
But, what are you going to do if you hack a speaker, right? So
right.
But yeah. But Sonos does some really cool stuff, too. Like, they just came out with a new version of their app where you walk around the room and your phone listens with your phone's microphone and the speakers play noises and it figures out the exact acoustic profile of your room and it tunes the speakers for that. Which is really pretty slick. So if you're a real audiophile, Sonos is awesome. If you like audio,
Sonos is awesome.
Yeah,
period.
Awesome. Yep.
So here's what how I'm amazed that we are in Star Trek technology. Like we live in Star Trek world, and that happened the minute we could talk to our iPhone. That was our communicator.
Right.
So what I find really interesting is, of course, all the big dramatic scenes on Star Trek are always like, give me more power to the forward shields. I can't. Why? Right. Because the system's down. How long is it going to take? 10 hours. I'm always marveling of when I go, Siri, call Russ mobile, and it whirs, and it whirs, and it whirs. I'm like, it's just like Star Trek. I'm like, how long is this going to not work? you know?
Right.
And then what do you have to do? Like, well, Scotty, what are you going to do? I'm going to have to completely shut the system down. So what do? We have to reboot.
Yep.
I don't know. To me, it's little mini Star Trek moments without phasers.
I had that with Apple Pay, right? So I use Apple Pay a lot on my Apple Watch, and I had to figure out the appropriate. So there's two experiences you have with Apple Pay. You either whip out your watch and you just tap your wrist on something and you've paid for it with effortless ease and you look like a badass sci-fi Star Trek dude.
Okay.
Or you pull out your watch and nothing works and it beeps and they try again and it beeps again and nothing's happening and you feel like a total doofball and eventually you pull out your credit card and pay the old-fashioned way, right? So,
and then you have to do a chip, which takes 3 times.
Right, and the chips are ridiculous, right? So by the line now is what I do is I use my Apple Pay, and usually you get a comment like, "Oh, those are so cool," and I say, "Yeah, when it works." So I go in. My default position is it's probably not going to work, but what I found is lately it works more. It's working more and more places, more and more reliably. So I'm not at a point yet where if I would, I haven't. I keep asking myself, like I know which stores take Apple Pay. Like my grocery store takes Apple Pay, right?
Yeah.
I know which gas stations take Apple Pay. I know, which coffee stores take Apple Pay. And I don't necessarily go to my way to use them, but I know going into like my grocery store, they take Apple Pay. So I ask myself, do you feel so confident about this payment technology that you would leave your wallet in the car?
Right? Oh, interesting.
Would I go in with armed with my watch and presume to be able to pay, and I always say, no, not quite. Even though it works there, like I've used it at my grocery store now, like, I don't know, 15, 20 times in a row without problem.
Right.
I still don't have that level of confidence,
interesting.
that it'll work. But there's still also times, like McDonald's takes Apple Pay, but you go in there sometimes and their credit card machine's down, period. Doesn't matter what you want to use, they have to have cash. So you're still not quite at a point yet where you can go in without your wallet in your pocket. But it's I could see it in the next 5 years.
Why do we need Apple Pay with the watch? Why can't I use Apple Pay with my iPhone?
You can. Oh, yeah, sure. But the watch is just cooler.
Oh.
The reason the watch
what do I do? I tap my iPhone to the Apple Pay thing?
No, so here's the difference. So it always sounds silly because it's so fast on the phone. Like, first of all, the credit card itself is really fast. So people who are like, why do you care about Apple Pay? Just take out your credit card and swipe it. What's funny about that is the chip mode actually takes a long time. So the
chip mode's longer.
The chip actually kind of sucks.
Chips suck.
Chips suck, right? So when you had to swipe the credit card,
I saw a report recently that they haven't slowed down theft at all.
No, they don't really do anything, right? No, what's cool about Apple Pay is more secure because what a lot of people don't know is Apple in real time makes a unique credit card number that is only usable once, and that's what the merchant gets. So if the merchant's hacked tomorrow, they do not have your actual credit card number if you use Apple Pay. They have some one-time use number that's dead now. So
damn.
So Apple Pay is super secure. The merchant doesn't get your credit card information or anything. They get a single-use thing, which is awesome. You can use your phone, but your phone requires that you put your finger on it and it reads your fingerprint, which is still pretty fast. But what's cool about the watch is, what the watch does is when you first put your watch on, you put in your PIN, and as long as the watch stays connected to your skin, which it can tell by these little sensors on it, the watch assumes it's authenticated. So when I go to pay with Apple Pay, I just tap a button twice, turn it over, it pays. There's no wait for your fingerprint to be read or anything. It's instant. So it's the fastest way you can pay, and it's secure because as long as my watch is on my wrist, I don't have to re-authenticate every time. It knows it's me. If I take my watch off my wrist, it's going to require that PIN again, but that happens twice, once in the morning.
Boy, when's that watch going to be able to test blood sugar? That'd be good.
Potentially. They're playing with that technology now, but what I love, the heart rate's actually awesome. I've been able, totally off gaming now. The heart rate's awesome because I've compared it to the exercise bike, which you put your hands on and it measures your heart rate.
Yeah.
And it is bang on every time.
Let's go back to Apple Pay on the phone.
Yes. Sorry.
What do? I download an app?
No, Apple Pay is built into your phone.
Okay.
All you got to do.
I got to find it in the wallet or something?
Go to your wallet and you'll see there's an add credit card button. And you click that and then you hold your credit card in front of the camera. It scans it. You put in some information about the card to make sure they know it's you. It connects to your bank and all of a sudden say payment is now authorized. And all you do then is with your phone, it's really cool. If you're in McDonald's, for example, you just hold your phone near the little wireless technology. And your phone screen will change and show your credit card. And you just hold your thumb on it. It'll be like paid. It's that simple.
Dang. Okay. So, I had a thought with the Apple Pay.
And I shouldn't say it's just Apple. Google's Pay also works very similarly. So there's multiple ways to pay with electronic devices now.
That was it, sort of. No, okay, I can't remember. All right, so Apple Pay, and it creates that unique identifier.
Yep.
Oh, this is what it was. Can you use? I like this unique. So my business card has been hacked for the 4th time.
Right.
I don't know how. Like, I'm not going anywhere weird with my business card. So 4th time. I go to use it, and they're like, "Oh, it's shut down." I'm like, "Oh my god, you got to be kidding me!"
Is it
And
being
that
shut
card
down
is
because it's
linked.
hacked, or is it being shut down by your payment patterns? So,
It's being shut down. I call it hacked. It's so, in other words, all of a sudden I go to use it. I know exactly what happened. I call the bank and they go, "I'm shut down again." They're like, "Yep. Did you buy a ticket on Assyrian Airlines?" I'm like, "Nope."
Oh.
Did you do this? Nope.
Oh wow! So there's bad data on your thing. That's not good.
I don't know. I don't even know what it means.
So when you get those emails that say, "Send me your credit card number," I'm a prince in don't do that.
Oh,
Don't.
is that the problem?
don't-
No,
don't
I'm not doing any of that. But my business card is in Amazon, but I'm not getting any letters from Amazon or anybody saying, GoDaddy or anything that's saying it's a problem. So I don't know how they're getting it.
That's weird.
So I'm getting sick and tired of this because I have to reconnect it to all of my business functions.
So if you were to, the problem is you can't use Apple Pay online very many places yet.
That's
So
what I was just about to ask.
The problem is for renewing services, like for subscribing to Hulu,
like
or,
GoDaddy.
yeah, GoDaddy. You can't use Apple Pay for that. So you got to put your credit card in there, and that's where you're probably getting
Right.
beat up somehow.
Compromise somehow.
Yeah. So also, don't pull your credit card out in public places. That's usually where they get it. Usually they get you not with technology. Usually they get you because you're sitting there in the movie theater or somewhere public, you're holding your credit card up, and they just take a picture of your credit card with their phone from 10 feet away. They zoom in, they get your information.
Okay.
Boom. So make sure
Okay.
you're doing, don't stand around with your credit card out, all that stuff. People just snap it like instantly.
Oh, that could actually might be what it is.
Yep.
Or could it be theft from the cashier at the movie theater?
Possibly. But that's again why Apple Pay is so awesome, because you never take your credit card out.
That's what I'm
there's
getting
no
to.
visual. So yeah, I am trying to use that more and more because it is a more secure, a digital payment is more secure than the analog pull out your card.
When are we going to get that for our online purchases so we can have this unique identifier?
It's there in some places. Like I can buy, here's a good example. Like on Amazon, I don't know if I can use it for Amazon, but like I have, I subscribe to Harry's Razors for my shaving, and in
there you go.
the Harry Razor app, I can actually pay with Apple Pay right in the app and reorder my razor. So I'm in the morning, I'm in the bathroom, I realize I'm going to be out of shaving cream next time. I can click, put my phone up, reorder, put my thumbprint on it, Apple Pay pays for it, boom. Harry's.
So that's where you need that Amazon puck, because then you could be shaving into it.
I could, yes. If I had Alexa, I could say, "Hey Bob, order me some new razors from Harry's."
PayPal create? Because I'm noticing their most online plays like GoDaddy, maybe not, but others are accepting PayPal. Does PayPal create a unique identifier?
Well, PayPal, it's interesting. They don't actually give credit card information out. So PayPal pays with their own proprietary API, and your credit card's protected behind there. So PayPal is probably. I prefer to use PayPal online or on the internet way more than my credit cards because of that exact reason. You lose a little more percentage on it, but it's giving you a more secure, in my opinion, a more secure transaction because they are not getting any credit card information. They're just getting a PayPal API, which PayPal controls very well. So
does Amazon take PayPal or Apple Pay?
I'm trying to remember now. I don't know. I haven't checked in a while.
Okay.
They might take PayPal.
So this is good stuff. We're protecting the universe here.
we're
We're
trying
protecting
to.
gamers.
Yeah. I should probably have some kind of disclaimer
this is
on
going to
here.
save.
Rafe, can you give me a
lives.
lawyerly disclaimer? I need some kind of lawyerly disclaimer.
Yes, here we go. The information provided here is only Raef, Russ's, and Craig's opinion.
Not even my opinion.
Not even Craig's
I haven't
opinion.
given my opinion.
None of us are
Craig's
security
comment.
experts.
Stayed very quiet.
Right. You use any and all information that we're discussing at your own risk.
Right. Excellent. Well, now that we've had the disclaimer, that means it must be the end. So,
We're at the end. That's right. I didn't talk a mile a minute, though, to get that disclaimer in.
that's well done.
I have to do that.
You want to try that
Yes.
again? Can you do it really quick?
Yes. Any and all information provided by Russ, Craig, and Rafe, not Craig because he didn't give his opinion, is used at your own risk only. We do not guarantee, verify, or say any of this is correct.
Excellent. Well, Rafe, thank you for joining us this week. I know you got to
My
take
pleasure.
a break here.
Super fun.
Always good to have you on the show, and we'll have you on again, of course, in the near future because why would we not?
That's just what we do.
We gotta.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your total fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakeland and check out my blog, totalfangirl.com. Our shout out is, as always, to our wonderful supporters over at Patreon. Head to patreon.com/the D6 Generation and you too can support the show. This week I had an opportunity to do something very, very cool at a completely unnerdy event that turned out to be incredibly nerdy. So I was at the Chicago Auto Show, which is, about cars, and it has all these shiny new cars from all the companies that make cars. And it has nothing to do with anything nerdy, except for the fact, and I've mentioned this before, that Nissan has partnered with the Star Wars franchise to come out with some special limited edition versions of its Nissan Rogue that are themed to Rogue One. And as a result of this, they have at the auto shows what is the coolest booth ever. So at the Chicago Auto Show, what they had was a couple of these limited edition Nissan Rogues. There's one that's white and one that's black, and they have special decals on them, and the cup holders have a Rebel and Imperial logo in the bottom of the cup holders, and there's embroidery on the floor mats and badging on the side of the car. So, and you get a helmet, like a numbered limited edition helmet that you could put on your mantle. So you get all this cool stuff. But they also had a giant, huge blow-up Death Star hanging from the ceiling over their booth, right next to a Nissan Rogue that they did up to sort of look like an X-Wing, and it had a little astromech droid that was actually made by the fan group whose name has escaped me, who makes astromechs, and it worked. Like, they had a remote control that they pulled out of the trunk and showed us, and you could make it make all sorts of noises, and it spun its little head, and it lit up and everything. Well, in an odd conversation on Facebook between another journalist I'm friends with, this guy named Chad, and one of the PR folks from Nissan, he had jokingly said, "Cancel my hotel room. I want to sleep under the Death Star." And her response was, "Ha ha ha, cute." And then a few minutes later, she messaged him and said, "Wait, if I could make that happen, would you do that?" And he said yes. And she said, "Do you want to bring someone?" And his first thought was the other nerdy journalist that he knows, who is me. So Nissan hooked us up with sleeping in the McCormick Center underneath the Death Star next to the Star Wars-inspired Rogue One with the astromech droid in it. Now, they didn't just say, "Guys, sleep underneath us." They got cots, they got sleeping bags, they got all sorts of really cool Star Wars-themed stuff. We had blankets, we had pillows, we had, what do you call them, the blanket thingies, the blanket that you put your arms into that turned us into Darth Vader. They had lightsabers. They had scooters. Now, mind you, these scooters that were Star Wars themed with lights that spun and rolled and lit up, they were designed for 5-year-olds. You just need for yourself to picture what happens when you put in a bunch of adults with these scooters after a good 18 hours of working in an auto show, and count us all lucky that we didn't break an arm or a leg or our skulls open playing with these goofy scooters. They had food, like snacks for us, and then they picked all the Star Wars themed stuff from the grocery store. So we had Star Wars water that had, the wrapper that was Star Wars. We had Cheez-Its with Star Wars on it. We had all sorts of stuff that was Star Wars themed. And we basically tweeted all night. It was the Star Wars CAS sleepover, which is Star Wars Chicago Auto Show sleepover. And we had so much fun. I was laughing so hard. So I got to sleep beneath the Death Star. And I lived to tell because the Death Star didn't blow me up. So it was one of those odd occasions where I wouldn't necessarily think that I would go to an auto show and have this incredibly fantastic nerdy experience. But my favorite part of the Chicago Auto Show was not so much the cool new cars, but the fact that, guys, I slept underneath the Death Star and I lived to tell.
You're listening to the Dice Tower Network at Dicetowernetwork.com. More fun than Merchant of Venus. Wait, what? Who writes these?
Hey, welcome back. And, Craig, Raef has left us. He had to step out.
He walked away.
Yeah, something about lawyerly duties, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But in any case, he already knows about this anyway because he was fortunate enough to have gone to Captain Con 2017 with you.
He did.
I was
He
not.
was my wingman.
He was kind enough to step up because unfortunately I had my other life kicked in and drew me away, unfortunately, because I really bummed because I love Captain Con because it's a great local convention. It's not huge, you get a lot of great local attendance. We know folks from all over the place to come out there, a great presence, a lot of fun. And of course, we always run our annual D6G event there.
Yes.
And so I wanted to ask you, I know you've been working really hard on it. I knew it was going to be Konflict 47. I was so excited to be involved with it.
Yeah.
I want to hear all the hotness. So what did you do? How did you get ready? How did it go?
Let's see. It's so much fun. Captain Con is so much fun, and we know not only our homies from around here, they all go, but a whole bunch of other people that we know go. Seppi is there of End of the Line fame, and Sam from Games and Gears is there, and then of course the entire Captain Con crew is all friends of the show. And then there are others, friends of the show from way back. And so you'd run into Hacksaw was there. I mean, it's just crazy all the different people that you meet, that you see. And so it's always something that I've looked forward to. And for years now, even way back when it was TempleCon, we scaled back and we scaled back and we scaled back until we were only going on that Saturday. We were just going mainly for the event, and then maybe would get lunch and then play a game or two and then go home. And this year, I really wanted to get the full experience again. So we had a room right there at the Crown Plaza. And I have to say, the Crown Plaza in Warwick, Rhode Island was awesome to me that whole weekend, because there was some confusion. Something had gone in and changed my reservation. And so they had charged me for one night when I wasn't even there and then given away my room.
Oops.
So that could have been bad, and it has been bad. We've been in places where that would have been the end of it.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Oh no, please, we're really sorry. Let's see if we can fix this." They gave me a suite.
Ooh, nice.
So that was awesome. So that was phenomenal, and I was So I got all settled in, and then Raef and I went out and had dinner. Because everybody else had dinner early. I got in, I got stuck in traffic. It was insane. I haven't traveled down there in so long. I haven't really driven that far in a long time during, normally it's been Saturday morning when I drive that far. So I hadn't taken traffic into account at all.
You drove down Friday evening at 5 o'clock?
Yeah, Friday. No, it was even worse. Yeah, it was Friday, 4. I left here for 4:30.
Yes.
So I got stuck in traffic going around Boston, and then I got stuck in traffic going into Rhode Island. Oh, it was awful. It was crazy. It was ridiculous. So a 2-hour, actually it must have been even earlier than that, because it's a 2-hour drive, like a 1 hour, 45-minute drive really normally, and it took me a long time to get down there. And so then we went out and had some really good Mexican food at the place where we went last year.
Oh, nice.
So we actually stumbled upon that eventually. And then when we got back, everybody was playing games. The way it's set up nowadays, the free gaming and the gaming library is actually in the Rotunda, which is a much nicer room than the big generic function hall.
Is it the room with all the skylights and everything in it?
Yeah,
That's a nice room.
It's like this beautiful cupola above you.
Yeah, right.
And there were some there. Normally, what that is when it was TempleCon, of course, there was a huge costume and cosplay presence. Mm-hmm. And that was the ballroom where a lot of those activities occurred, because it's a beautiful room. Right. So without that presence, without that focus, that's a big wide open room. So it became the open gaming room. So that was great. So that's where I played Super Rhino. And that's where I put together a game of the Dragon and Flagon. So that was a really cool place. But I went to bed. I think it was probably like a midnight, because I knew we had to get up early in the morning, and everybody else was starting to drive. A lot of the guys were at La Quinta, so they had to drive 10 or 15 minutes away. So everything started to break up there early. But it was nice. I mean, all the guys were there at 7 o'clock, so they were still manning the booth. They were awesome. I have to tell you, Russ, it was such a nice experience to walk into something and immediately be recognized by everybody manning the registration booth. They offered me my choice of admission pass
So it was like Cheers. It was kind of like Craig.
It was. Not only was it exactly like Cheers, but then they were like, "Hey, do you want to be a vendor, staff, or a honored guest?" I was like, "Ooh, staff."
See, the answer to that is which one has the least amount of work associated with it.
Well, sadly, yeah, I picked staff because I'm just a sucker. I like to be involved.
Right,
and then, sadly, people were asking me questions I didn't know the answers to all weekend long.
Error.
Yeah, that was a mistake. I should have gone with vendor. Is what I learned at Gen Con.
Yes,
because then people are like, oh, "Okay, fine, we'll let you wherever you want to go," and and then they don't ask questions. So that was right off the bat. So I woke up and I went. Actually, it was. You know what? It couldn't be that. It was later than that because it was like 1 to 1:30 in the morning when I went back up to the room.
That's late.
Which is when for the first time in my life, I found that little, "Hey, you want to wake up to breakfast?" little paper thing on my pillow, and I actually read it, and I went, "Oh, room service."
Right. What madness is this?
And what madness is this? And I knew everybody else was getting their breakfast on their way in because most of them were either, they were either going to be sleeping late because they had been up late, or they were, across town. I was like, I'm going to be all by myself. What am I going to get up extra early so I can drive out to a Dunkin' Donuts, or I can get really healthy food. I get like an egg white omelet and wheat toast. So I set it all up. It was great. Didn't read the fine print, sadly, until after I had put it out on my door. And then at like 2:15, because I was putting together a couple models and I was putting everything like in order so I could get it down early the next morning. And I checked and my thing was gone. And I was like, wait a minute, let me go over that again. Oh, look at that. 21% gratuity included.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
2%, $2 delivery fee.
Yeah.
And then there were like other fee. I felt like I was getting a wireless service, to be honest, with all the with all the fees and service.
Well, that's the problem with the room service. It never is as good as you anticipate, and it always is like triple the cost. Is what you anticipate.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't feel like I need to do it again, but it was neat to do it.
Well, you've
once.
experienced it now. Now you know.
Yeah. So I woke up extra early, and another problem with room service for breakfast is you order it the night before. And so then you're pinned down for like between 9 and 9:30. They were going to show up with my breakfast. So I woke up at 8. I was like, okay, now what am I going to do? So I putted around for a little while, made sure everything was ready to go, kept looking outside. And when my breakfast eventually came, she tried to push me for more tip.
And did you pull out the card and go, look,
she was
it's
standing
21%.
there, and I was like, oh, yeah, no, pretty sure this is all set. And she was like, oh, I don't know. I'm new here. And I was like, oh, well, let me check.
Right.
And I flip open the bill. I'm like, oh, no, look, 21% gratuity and a $2 delivery fee. So I'm sure your tip's floating around somewhere downstairs. oh, sorry. I'm new. Yeah, I'm sure you're new.
Right.
So then I went down and got all my stuff. Raef was going to show up early and help set up, but I actually got down there earlier and was setting stuff up.
Thanks to your breakfast wake-up call, so there was one benefit bonus.
Exactly. Well, no, I woke up even before the breakfast. I don't know what was going on. But again, everything was hopping. You got tournaments going all weekend long. There were 2 huge ballrooms full of tournaments. So the vast majority of the really big gaming space is still taken up. And the vendors are still in that big general greeting hallway, and there are actually more vendors than last year. And Arena Rex was there, a few other a lot of independent places there have been, but it was that was very cool. And so I went and I started setting up, and people were asking questions like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, we're going to play Konflict 47. And it was interesting because the table was set up, and it had the tables this year very well organized. They had kind of like a menu standee in the middle of each table for what was going to be played at that table. And the table that we were given, which was actually a pretty amazing, I think it was, when it all was said and done, it was 12 feet by 4 feet. It was like 2 6-footers put together. And it said on it, D6G, Konflict 47, and then after that it was Konflict 47 demo, Konflict 47 demo, so it had Konflict 47 demos all day on the schedule.
Yep.
So people kept saying, like, are you guys doing that afterwards? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, I'm
So
not.
did you get a lot of excitement about the fact that it was Conflict 47? A lot of people.
Well, there were a lot of people who didn't know what Konflict 47 was. And then we got a lot of people who knew about bolt action. Then we had some guys who were like, well, I have the starter set, but I haven't opened it. Or, I have the starter set. I've read the book. It looks good, but I haven't put anything together yet. So I'm really wanting to see how the game plays. So there was a lot of that, and then there were a couple guys who were like, wow, this looks cool. Then there was one guy who came over, and Raef was giving him the hard sell, and I was like, way to go, Raef. And the guy was like, listen to the whole thing, and went, yeah, I can't stand games that mix genres. And then started trashing games that mix genres. I was like, seriously, like, and he was like running his own game thing across the. I'm like, I'm gonna go over there in a second and start trashing whatever it is you're playing over there. But so we were setting up. We had everything. Like the people were coming in. I was tweeting away. The table looked awesome. Like I said, very seldom does a table turn out exactly how it was in my head when I started the project. So I was very excited.
Yeah, the pictures were amazing. I saw you tweeting out. Now I have a bone to pick, though.
Uh-oh, what's that?
Yeah, because I don't want to jump ahead here in your story. So, but I just need to point out that like in turn one, the Panzer IV was killed.
It was.
Now,
yes, it was.
Who deployed that tank and what the heck?
I deployed the tank.
Oh, that's what I thought.
And had the Germans drawn the dice first, everything would have been different.
Right.
But the Americans got the first 3 dice out of the bag.
Okay.
To the point where one of the guys was like, "You want to make sure there's any gray dice in there?" Right. And another guy was like, "We have a house rule where we play where if it's 3 dice in a row, the next die is automatically. I was like, that makes perfect sense because I don't know that I've ever played a game where 3 dice in a row like this at the very beginning of the game came out, and it was against the team the army who actually had a 1 die advantage going in.
Right. Well, the way you avoid that
mathematically improbable.
The way you avoid that problem is you don't park your expensive tank right in the middle of an open field.
Well, it wasn't. It was in cover from one shot and not in cover from the other shot. And it was to be honest, I think what was happening was when Andy played the Germans, and when Andy played the Germans on Tuesday, he was very hyper aware of the horror bubble around the vampires and the werewolves and the. So I think that I did that to myself also because I had everybody in really good cover. The horror guys were all in really good cover, but they were kind of spread out, and that kind of limited where I could put the tank. And when we played it, when we played it on Tuesday, the Sherman and the Panzer were on the road, like facing each other. That's where they deployed.
Right.
And so, but I didn't want to do that because depending upon who got the first die, that was gonna mess somebody up. So I had him behind there, and they were like, he was tucked in behind a hedge and behind a tree. So. And there was all kinds of that there. And then I figured later what happened was that Raef deployed the giant walker, whose gun is not nearly as effective against heavy armor than the Sherman. But so what happened was they got those 2 dice out right off the bat. So the Sherman went and whiffed, and then the Grizzly went and took out it's not really a Hail Mary. It's +4 on the die, but it's a 5. I mean, it's a 9 armor. So they did have to roll well to do what they did, but they did. And then Raef was like, "Oh my God, I feel so bad. You guys should just keep playing as if we didn't do that." And I was like, because once that offer is out there, now what are you supposed to? I was like, but thankfully. The guys on the German side are like, no, we understand the way the game works. That was, that's totally legit because the walker was out in plain sight also. Like I said, if the dice had gone the other way.
But it sounds like it turned around in the next turn, right? So you got some good counter fire happen from the Germans.
Oh my God. Then it was, yeah. I mean, by the end, the Sherman was taken out. The Grizzly was never taken out, but it was totally tied up by the vampires who had taken out the Sherman.
Right.
So they kind of dominated that flank. And then the Coyote, the Scout Walker, was like dominating right the center line where the plane was going to land, and then the plane landed on top of it. So just like thunk, pancake. That was it. That was at the end.
Nice.
It's like you get hit with a medium field artillery piece. So it's like dead.
See, it's like the Super Bowl. You never give up, no matter how
You
bad the
never
first
give
part
up
of the game
till the
is.
last second.
right.
You never can tell
just
what's
play
going
it out.
to happen.
You never know.
Exactly.
So how did speaking of playing out? So did you run it sort of similarly to how we did Antares last year, with each player controlled a unit, or did you mix up a little bit? How did that go? How did you run?
It's funny.
The
They kind of no. Well, I mean, I had it all set up. So every unit had one of those cards that I make. So there were those cards that they were kind of like lined up against, like in the deployment zones. And Rafe deployed the Americans and I deployed the Germans, like I said. And then we just it ended up being 3-on-3 for people who were there for the entire game. And then other people came, like one guy came and watched the entire game. Other people came in and out, like with advice and stuff, not really taking full part, but I mean, at one point we probably had like 10 or 15 people as they were moving through watching the game, and they kind of like decided on their own what units they were going to. So it was, there were 11 German units and 10 American units, 3 guys on a side. They kind of just sort of like figured out on their own who was going to be in charge of what, which is kind of what happened with
there you go. Right.
Antares. Yeah. So what we were talking about when we did achievements. And Rafe was like, "Oh yeah, that was really awkward." We were setting up, and there's the piano there, and this guy just wandered over and started playing the piano
In the middle of your game.
And in the middle of setting up the game.
Oh,
but
okay.
other people were playing their games, and there was one group that was playing like. See, I'm not sure if he was part of that group, and it was like a little scene they were playing out because there was also like an
RPG situation.
there was a weird like kind of they looked like high school kids, but maybe not. I don't know. Drawn a total blank, cosplay, like a little cosplay group there. I don't know if they were there while the piano was going or not, though. But so the guy was playing piano. He was playing classical piano, and he was doing pretty well. He would like miss a key every now and then he would say, a foul word, which I was always taught as an actor. You don't let people know when you made a mistake because they don't know enough to know really if that was a mistake or if it was supposed to be that way. And if you do let people know you make a mistake, it's like playing piano, missing one key, and then going, "Oh, shh," And
and he did.
So that's what he was. And that's what he was doing.
Oh, jeez.
And then somebody came over and was like, "Hey, we're trying to play a game over there. Do you mind not playing?" And he acted like he couldn't hear the guy.
Huh.
And I know I've seen him, like I saw him conducting normal conversations. I know he wasn't deaf or anything, but he was acting as if he could, like completely ignoring the guy asking him to stop playing. Huh. And it got really awkward. Like Rafe was intimating. It got really awkward at one point because the guy was like, "I don't know what else I'm supposed to ask you to do because you're not stopping and you're pretending you can't hear me. I know you can hear." And the guy was like, I was like, "Well, at least he's playing the right song."
I don't know that I've ever had gamer drama with a piano before. This is new for me.
No, it was bizarre. It was bizarre.
Now, did he eventually stop before the game started?
So, he had stopped. Well, yes, he had stopped by the time we had started. He had stopped, I think, or soon after. So and then the game went, and that was awesome. And we were actually in the process of packing up when I unfortunately got a call from home that my dad had an accident and was in the hospital. So my whole weekend got cut short, and everybody at Captain Con and at the hotel was amazing dealing with that situation because I had plans with other people. I had dinner business plans. I had meetings scheduled for D6G stuff. I'd had meetings scheduled for other stuff. And the Captain Con guys were awesome. The hotel was awesome. They didn't charge me for that second night that I was supposed to be there. Rafe and I, the situation with my dad had kind of settled down, so I didn't need to rush away. So Rafe and I went out for a quick lunch, and he was an excellent wingman again for that. And then I went back and I did this whirlwind. I talked to Seppi, I talked to Sam, I talked to the Captain Con guys. I made sure that I hit everybody that we needed. Oh, I haven't talked to you off the air yet about this. I talked to the War Store. I had a list. I had a checklist of all the people I needed to talk to, and I talked to everybody. And again, it's like because it's a smaller local con, everybody was there. Everybody was easy to find. I went through the vendor area also because I didn't want to miss out, on any shopping I might have wanted to do.
Right.
And unfortunately, I had a game of War Machine already planned. I had a game of Guild Ball already planned, and I had all of my. I had Vikings on board and Colt Express and a bunch of filler games in my car all ready to go for the whole night. And sadly, it all fell apart. Luckily, my dad is better. He's out of the hospital now, and everything has sort of settled down for the time being. But that's kind of how my weekend ended, with everybody helping out, which was awesome. And you wouldn't have gotten that feel again. It's these local cons where you're known and you're appreciated, and everybody kind of pulls together. And so I mean it's that whole thing about a local con. It's really nice. And so unfortunately, I was kind of scatterbrained towards the end there with my focus on both being pulled in one direction with my dad and the other direction with all my to-do list for business stuff. But ask me some questions.
Yeah, sure.
Like jog my memory. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, I want to know more about the Konflict 47 game itself. Like, what are people's reaction to it? Because it's kind of the first time, you and I kind of dove into it when it first sort of hit the streets, and we've been really passionate about it. And our gaming group keeps looking at it, but we haven't really got a lot of folks to dive into it.
Well, it's funny you should mention that.
Right.
Because bouncing off of just doing the mega battle, the preview that I did on Tuesday, while I was playing, Andy was like, "Oh, by the way, I have a Russian army," and I was like, "Oh, nice, cool!" So he got a Russian army, and while we were playing, Matt was like, "Oh, by the way, I just used my phone and ordered a British army."
Nice, awesome.
So there was that, and then at the end, Rafe was like, "Hey, do you have one of those mini rule books I could borrow?"
Oh, good. Now he did say earlier in the show though he didn't love it, but I do like that's exciting that other people. Did a similar thing occur at Captain Con? Did you find?
Well, it's funny you should ask that. So we had a couple guys who already owned it.
Right.
We had a couple guys who immediately went to the War Store, and unfortunately, of course, our communication with the War Store hasn't been at its best lately.
Right.
And so they didn't have any of it.
Boo.
But those two guys both went to go buy some. Mm-hmm. And there was one guy who I wish I should have written down the names. They were all listeners. I feel crappy not having written down the names. But he is a huge fan of Bolt Action 2nd Edition.
Okay.
So his main problem was he didn't like the fact that it was Bolt Action 1st Edition.
Oh, 1st Edition. Yeah, right.
But I have read Bolt Action 2nd Edition. I haven't played it, so I don't know.
It's not that hard to tweak it. It's tweakable.
It's not that big a difference.
Yeah.
And you can tweak it, I think, relatively easily.
Oh, you could.
Especially because a lot of the differences are just the way the weapons work now.
Right. Exactly.
But I personally, they didn't put in the full reaction system into Bolt Action 2.
Right.
It's not there. It's so it's a very weird, the way Bolt Action and Antares and Konflict 47 came about and are being maintained is very odd, because you have Warlord, right? Mm-hmm. And Warlord does Bolt Action.
Right.
Then you have Rick Priestley working with Warlord to do Beyond the Gates of Antares. Right. So it's a similar system, but it's very different with its D10s, and it's all of the modifiers are different. Then you had a totally different company given the Bolt Action 1 rule set to develop Konflict 47 sort of in a bubble. So it's weird because Bolt Action 2 was being developed at the same time that Konflict 47 was being developed, but it was being developed by a different company. And there was some sort of wall between the two, or there was a lack of communication, because you had in August, you had Konflict 47, and then just 2 months later, you had Bolt Action 2 come out, and nary the twain would meet, so to speak.
Right.
So it's a very weird. You've got these 3 games all look similar from 50,000 feet, but when you get in close, there's just enough difference. I think it's cool. I like it personally, and I prefer, I prefer Beyond the Gates of Antares, but I love Konflict 47, and I would put Bolt Action as a distant third, to be honest.
Right.
But you have these 3 different options, and it's the Bolt Action and Konflict, as you said, are close enough that you could easily tweak Konflict 47 into Bolt Action 2, I think, for the most part.
Right. So it sounds like you got a good, and then there were Konflict 47 demos afterwards most of the day.
Yeah, but nobody knows where they were, who they were being done by, and they weren't being done before I left.
So
and
you
I didn't
were it.
leave till
so you were pretty much it then for the Konflict 47.
Yeah, there was a menu
posse.
that said there would be some, but I didn't see any happening.
Okay. Well, but
They might have happened later. Like I said, I had to bolt out of there.
Well, it's good, though.
Bolt.
So how did the game balance work? It sounds like the game seesawed nicely. There was a good ups and downs for both sides. It sounds like everybody had a pretty good time.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, I think the cool. I love this mission because the whole battlefield changes when the objective shows up.
Yeah.
So you don't know where you need to kind of like press on all flanks and hope that your strong units are near the plane where it lands.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody's going for the plane.
Right.
And so like with these guys, like I think the Germans had a very, very strong right flank that could have swept towards the plane, but instead was kind of like pinning Americans in place. But what they ended up doing was taking the time to destroy the Sherman, taking the time to take to kind of knock the or pin down the Grizzly. And while they were doing that, the airborne, a command section, and the heavy infantry for the U.S. kind of snaked out and went around to the plane.
Right.
And the fact that you can move 12 inches with a unit reliably means that, 2 turns and you're halfway across the board. I mean, so you've got a lot of, it's not like, and who knows what 40K looks like nowadays. I don't know at all.
Right.
But I remember 40K, like where you had, unless you had a vehicle, your unit was going to be relatively close to where it started at the end of the game. And in bolt action and Konflict 47, that's not necessarily the case because you have this run option and you've got faster units. So they were able to reposition their strong units, while the Germans did a really good job of pinning down every other unit. So the airborne and the heavy infantry could get to the airplane.
Right.
But they got there almost in full strength. So if it had gone another turn, the Germans, I think, would have been in trouble. And those zombies, they took so much fire. It was insane.
Zombies are awesome.
Zombies, they were literally unstoppable. It went from a 9 zombie unit at the beginning to the last 2 guys. But until you got him down to 1 guy, they don't care at all about morale. And even then, they don't care much about morale. And so with 2 guys, that was more than enough to give them the versatility, to the resilience to stay there. And then that command unit that had been hiding in the orange grove that popped out just at the end there was just what they needed to tie the game. So, and it was the second tie. The second time I ran that scenario with the exact same board, with the exact same forces, and it was a tie again. And I don't think it's a flaw in the system.
No.
Because it all depends where you deploy and then how you can redeploy as soon as the airplane shows up. You've only got 3 turns, really, to know where you need to be.
I think a tie is a pretty good answer there because, in those games, and people who haven't done some of these kind of games don't really appreciate the sort of the mayhem that occurs because you've got a bunch of folks. I mean, how many players did you end up having on both sides? What was the total player count?
3 on each, for full players. So 6.
So you got six players, all of whom generally don't know each other, usually.
Right.
Most of them haven't played the game before, typically.
Yeah.
And they're busy learning their own units they're controlling and not really necessarily thinking about overall strategy. And unlike when it's one-on-one in an army scale game, you're all thinking with different brains too. So while you might discuss it and say, yeah, let's do this, in the middle of battle, all of a sudden you decide the better thing to do is to go the other way. And now you've foiled half your army's plans without even meaning to, because you were just, which is actually a little more realistic, but also,
and not even that, you might you might mess with your buddy's plans just by claiming the activation die.
Right. Exactly.
You look at it and you see, oh my God, they're going to get a clean shot at me. I need to move, or I need to shoot at them first. And then the other guy gets the die and goes, oh, you know what? I really want to do this with my unit. And then boom, off you go. Now you're vulnerable and you just got all shot up.
And I think that's why
happened a few times.
I think the integrated activation actually with the dice is really cool with a multiplayer game like this.
Oh, absolutely.
Because in a full one-on-one activation order, it matters less, right? You're interested in who succeeds before you move, kind of thing. Yeah. But you all know you're going to act before your opponent does. Now you're really second guessing what the most important move is. That's tough enough as the only player. But when there's 3 of you or more trying to debate that topic, and then you're also trying to be polite right?
Yes,
and trying not to be like, well,
yes,
you
we
go
had a
ahead
very
and go
polite
first.
group again,
You know?
because D6G listeners are awesome.
Right.
They were trying. In fact, they were deferring to each other so much that might have added a little time to the game.
And that it's time, and it also adds confusion because now, you might agree it's the right thing to do to let that other guy go, but he's been so polite to let you go, and you don't, what I mean? Like this whole, so it gets into it. But I think that's awesome. It's tight. Now, the other thing that's awesome, I think that's cool about the fact that the three of these different systems are so close in terms of mechanics, the Atari's, Konflict 47, and Bolt Action, the scenarios are almost interchangeable, right? Like,
yes.
So, and for those who are interested in the scenario you used, where did you get that from?
It's called Kitty Hawk Down, and it's on like 3 or 4. It's on the WWPD What Would Patton Do website. It's also on the Warlord forum, and it was on, I believe, an Australian forum.
And that's actually a bolt action mission, right? It's not a Konflict 47.
Yes, exactly. It is a bolt action.
Did you have to modify it in any way, or you pretty much used it stock?
Nope. But the stock mission, because it's a tournament mission.
Oh, right.
And a tournament's not, you're going to be running a tournament with like 10, 15 tables.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have 10 or 15 beautifully shot down German or American planes, as terrain. So it's actually designed to be, you don't have a plane you're trying to get to. You just have a crater you're trying to get to. So they can place a crater, and it destroys any terrain that it touches. So basically the plane, like when the plane came down for us, there was a whole firefight going on behind a building, and the plane knocked down the building.
Wow, that's awesome.
So actually, the plane knocked down a building both times we played. So I maybe that's my fault for putting 2 different buildings.
No, that's cool. I think that adds to the drama.
Like right on the center line. It could have taken out a bridge with
you need to have a bunch of bits of balsa wood, Craig. You can sprinkle over the landing site. Like
I have ruins.
See, I knew you'd have that. I don't even know why I even didn't expect it. I should have. Just
Ultimately, the footprint of the building was completely covered in both instances by the footprint of the crashed plane.
Perfect.
Terrain piece. So I didn't put any ruins in there, but I could have because I had them.
But that's awesome. I think that's what, and you and I have done this before too, right? We've gone, we play at Adler Hobby a lot. They have a bunch of bolt action materials there, and we've grabbed some bolt action source books off of there, picked a scenario out of there, and just played it unmodified with Konflict 47, and it works great. And I think we've mentioned this before, right? The fact that these games are so close in mechanics, you really have years of source material you can draw from for scenario ideas and different ways to form your armies and all kinds of crazy stuff that's there for you. So it's an awesome system. I really liked it, and I'm glad it resonated well. I'm glad the folks that played had a good time. I'm glad all your hard work paid off. The pictures look fantastic, and it sounds like everybody had a good time.
No, it was a lot. It was a lot of fun. And like I said, I love going to these conventions and feeling like I'm part of it.
Right.
And you definitely feel that way at Captain Con.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you to everyone at Captain Con for making Craig feel so welcome.
I wish I could have been
saying
there. Hi.
Yeah, I apologize for not making it. I cannot wait for next year now. I'm even doubly more excited. Is that a thing?
It should be cool. It doubly, yes. It doubly works well.
This Did You Ever Notice is brought to you by everyone over at Patreon that has suffered through the video or not, and then decided that they would like to be a part of the D6 generation and help us keep the lights on and keep the show going against things like inertia. And today, in particular, I'd like to thank Jordan Steinhoff, Josh Neal, Justin, Carl Sears, and Keith Ferguson. Thank you, gentlemen, for your help and for being a part of the D6 generation. Do you ever notice how quickly sometimes your perception can change? And I wasn't going to do this. I honestly wasn't. I know that you guys come here for gaming, and you don't come here for politics or real-life stuff, but I have to say something. Do you ever notice how weird it is that nobody plays these little skirmish games that these companies come up with? Somewhere out there, Russ just had a minor heart attack. Honestly, everything changed for me this week when, actually, it was last week. I spent over $100 getting bad guys for the Marvel Universe Miniatures game, the MUMG, okay, from Night Models. from the War Store. I was very excited. Guys at the War Store were like, "Oh yeah, no, this game's really taken off. It's awesome. It's starting to pick up." I was like all excited. It's not a great game, and the models aren't universally great, but there are some beautiful models in that range. Some phenomenal models. And it was a fun game, especially to play with a light game with my son. And now I had bad guys, so I could have some bad guys, roll some bad guys in there. Literally 2 days after that exchange and me shelling out $100 for these models, Night Models announced that it was no longer supporting the game and that it had terminated its agreement. It was all genial and, happy, friendly language, but it had terminated its relationship with Marvel Studios. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I was really frustrated. And so at around that time, this was still right after I'd played my most recent game of Frostgrave, and of course I talked last time about how I opened the book and it was full of mold from the flood. So I needed to go in and I needed to go online and I needed to get another copy of Frostgrave. And at the same time, I was reading the rules for Blood and Plunder. So you had all of these things working together at the same time. So I was going to be ordering anyway for Frostgrave. And I was reading the rules for Blood and Plunder, which we're going to talk about a lot in the upcoming episodes because we played it just last night. We had a blast, Russ and I. You can look on Twitter for some cool pictures of the repurposed Konflict 47 terrain, which I actually made sneakily with Blood and Plunder in mind. And as I was reading the rules, I was like, oh, this is totally an army scale. This is units. This is going to be units. This isn't an individual game, which I knew from Gen Con. But I was thinking, the models look awesome, and it would be really cool. I have some friends who love like the old gut shot days where we would all just get around a table and each person has one model and we all go at it. And I was like, oh, I wonder if there's rules for like piratey goodness for that. And the whole Marvel Miniatures thing just collapsed on me. And I don't know why. I could just play the Marvel Miniatures game with the models that I have, except that I can't even get any of the cool models that I want anymore because now they're not available because Night Models, everybody started picking them up as soon as everybody found out that the game had been killed. So I went online. I was ordering Frostgrave, and I started looking through it. I went, you know what? What about this On Guard? So I picked up a copy of a game also by Osprey called On Guard by a designer named Craig Woodfield. And this is a little book, relatively inexpensive. I think I paid $12 for it. And the rules for the game are like maybe 20 pages long. And if you take out all the illustrations and stuff and the cool pictures of period models and all kinds of stuff like that, even less, probably 15, maybe 16 pages of rules. And it has a very cool seeming combat mechanic where you have to secretly decide whether your models are going to be playing offensively or defensively or a balance. And then there's all kinds of abilities that play off of those things. It was a really cool, the review I read seemed really cool. So I threw that into the order. And then I saw Rogue Stars by Andreas Villajoy, again by Osprey War Games. And he, the Song of Blades. I mean, he's done a bunch of games, for a few different publishers, and so I threw in Rogue Stars. So these are all in the vein of Frostgrave. So Frostgrave, of course, generic rule set with. I mean, you can get the models, but you don't need to use the Frostgrave models. I mean, I have a crap ton of bones that I use. On Guard was the same way. There are no On Guard models. You just go out there and you play any sort of swashbuckling models that you find, anything from the Three Musketeers to pirates, like 18th century pirates, or whatever. So you know what I mean. Rogue Stars is the same way. So I got all these, And while I was waiting for those to appear, I was like, oh, and this whole Marvel thing is weighing on me. I want to go, like, what else is out there? So I started looking for another set of rules that I could play with my Marvel models and kind of get my friends into that also. And I found a game called Super System by Scott Pyle and David Lewis, published by Four Color Studios. And I think I went on the miniature page, and it was a thread that was about, hey, what's the best for generic superheroes or superhero games that you can tailor to existing IPs, and it just kept popping up. Oh, this is the best. Oh, this is the best. Oh, this is the best. Oh, you got to get this. You got to get this. So I went and I got it, and it was a PDF again that cost me, I think, like $12. It's only available now on PDF, which should have told me something. Then I had it printed out at Staples. Shouldn't have done that, because that ended up costing me, this book ended up costing me like $35 for a spiral bound notebook printed for it anyway. And it looks like it does a lot of the kind of stuff that I wanted to do, but it is so complicated. And it's like, well, if you pick this mod, it's plus 25% of the point of that power. But if you pick this mod, it's minus 5%. I mean, it's insane. The granularity of the points going down to percentages and rounding up and rounding down and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, the math is unbelievable. And it's old. It's an old game. All the support that I looked for, I couldn't find it. Now, that's possible. The school system still thinks, the school computer system still thinks that I am a student. So the firewall still hates me. But so that's frustrating too. But all of a sudden, so I've got all of these little sort of independent skirmish games now. And I'm thinking, what happened to me? Like, I would not have I made fun of people who bought these books just a couple of years ago. And now, not only am I buying them, I'm reading them, I'm looking forward to On Guard. I really want to get to the table. I think it's going to be really cool. Rogue Stars, to be honest, I never got past. I needed to learn Blood and Plunder, which is not a simple game. And so I was bouncing between that and On Guard, and trying desperately to absorb Super System, and I don't know if I can do it. So, but I'm excited. I mean, because I've got all these models already. I've got 1 billion Bones models. There's all kinds of models for superheroes. I mean, I'm to be honest, I'm going to Clicks, Hero Clicks, and I'll repaint them because I really want Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers primarily. And but I'm not sold that this Super System is the way to go. So if anyone out there knows of a simple, fast, fun superhero system that I could play with these Marvel models, please email me at craig@the d6generation.com. I need your help. That's where I am right now. Okay, my perspective on life has changed. I am a big fan all of a sudden of these little skirmish games, but I want to find the one that I can use with my Marvel models. And that's about all I've got to say about that. So thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
Right. It's good to have the band back together again. This is great. Twice in as many months. Is that right? No. Yes, sort of. Actually, it is.
Just about.
Yeah.
We skipped January.
Yeah, twice in as many months. That'd be 2 months, Craig.
Right. That'd be December.
Yes.
And this is February.
Right. We skipped January. Right.
Correct. So that would be twice in 3 months.
No, twice in as
God,
many.
here we go.
2 months. Because it's
Profit,
it's
not
barely.
profit.
Or never mind. All right, moving on. Anyway,